Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Konoha. I turn on the limiter in the ninja world. Chapter 21. Not easy. What's so difficult about living in this world? Hinata Hiyashi obviously didn't understand what Ryosuke said. As a member of the Hyuga clan, with such a large number of branch families, who fought to the death to protect, even in the war, the main family could remain intact, not to mention the current peace. But soon, he seemed to have thought of something, and the anger on his face gradually stopped, followed by surprise, and then disbelief. What did you see again? Hinata Hiyashi asked in a low voice. Since Ryosuke said so, if he still didn't understand, he would be really confused. Is it not easy to live in this world? If other people said this, it might not be so important in Hinata Hiyashi's heart, but now that this sentence was spoken by Ryosuke, it had a great weight in Hinata Hiyashi's heart. He almost forgot that this kid's eyes could see the future. With Hyuga Ryosuke's current position in the Hyuga clan, he feels that it will be difficult to live in the future. It is conceivable how complicated the crisis will be in the world in the future. But now the entire ninja world has finally entered a peaceful period. Is the fourth ninja world war about to start again? So, how long can the current peace last? Just realizing this, doubts in Hyuga Hiyashi's heart emerged one after another. With Konoha's position and power in the ninja world, there shouldn't be a force that can endanger Hyuga, right? At least the other four countries have not done so in such a long struggle. So, who will the enemy be? Looking at Hyuga Hiyashi's doubtful face, Ryosuke smiled again and comforted him. A lot of trouble, but father, don't have to worry, everything is up to me. Can't you reveal it at all? Hyuga Hiyashi asked unwillingly. But before Ryosuke smiled and opened his mouth, he asked himself again, I understand, after saying it, the future will change, and it will affect your and my judgment. He is already very skilled in this matter. Since he learned about Ryosuke's Byakugan, he would always talk to Ryosuke when there were major events and decisions in the clan, hoping that he could reveal some future content. But unfortunately, every time, Ryosuke used this ability to work and not work, or he could not reveal too much to get by, and could only get some obscure answers. But in the general direction, these vague answers still gave Hyuga Hiyashi a lot of help. But unfortunately, he didn't know that those suggestions were actually given by Ryosuke based on the actual situation, not seeing the so-called future. Okay, you guys go to bed early. Hyuga Hiyashi gave up asking questions and gave up correcting Ryosuke's dreams and goals. He didn't understand what Ryosuke was facing, let alone what the family would face in the future. Then we'll leave first, father, you should also go to bed early. Ryosuke smiled lightly, pulled up Hinata, who was silently acting as a transparent person next to him, and left the house. After Hinata completed her physical training in advance through her own efforts and began to practice soft boxing, she officially participated in the conversation between Ryosuke and Hyuga Hiyashi. Although she always stood aside silently, did not speak, and listened carefully. But Ryosuke always took her with him, and Hyuga Hiyashi did not let her leave. As the future head of the family, she should learn these and should know these. Looking at the backs of the two people leaving, Hyuga Hiyashi was silent for a while before sitting back in the chair and closing his eyes. After calming down, he realized his gaffe just now. But it's no wonder, it's really Ryosuke's goal is too short-sighted. Without understanding the actual situation, his first reaction can only be to hate iron for steel. But now think about it, in fact, Ryosuke is already too good. Even if his goal is really like that, he is destined to be extraordinary. He has learned what should be taught and learned, whether as a ninja or as a member of the Hyuga clan, he has learned very well. Now, Hyuga Hiyashi has nothing to teach Ryosuke, so he can only give him some guidance in actual combat. But this progress is rapidly shortening. Every time a battle begins, Ryosuke can give him new surprises. If it weren't for his physical fitness and chakra volume, Hyuga Hiyashi felt that he might soon be surpassed by Ryosuke. Maybe, it's time to put him in a position to face real combat and fighting. With this thought in mind, Hyuga Hiyashi opened his eyes again and began to deal with the affairs of the clan. Then this class ends here, get out of class dismissed. On the podium of the ninja school, after Iruka announced the end of this class, he shouted to the yellow figure in the last row, Naruto, follow me to the office. After that, he packed up his ninja tool bag and left the classroom. Sitting next to Ryosuke, Naruto fell limply on the desk after hearing Iruka's words before he left. He said irritably, "Ah, Mr. Iruka must have asked me to recite the content of the class again. Why is he so idle?" But there was still some happiness in his irritable tone. "Who told you not to listen carefully in class? He wants you to remember this knowledge, so he can only give you a special lesson after class. No one else has this opportunity." Ryosuke smiled and replied, waving his hand to signal him to go quickly. And Naruto did not delay for long. After lying for a while, he jumped up and left the classroom in the disgusted eyes of some people in the class. A week passed, and the study in the ninja school was much more boring than Ryosuke imagined. But he was very patient. These training knowledge were all new to him. Just like comparing studying the energy properties of chakra, a very common thing in the ninja world, with becoming a Hokage and being the head of a village, which is a great thing in the ninja world, Ryosuke would choose the former without hesitation. As long as it is related to practice, he can maintain novelty and patience for a long time. In terms of communication, since he is Naruto's deskmate, Ryosuke must not say nothing to him. Occasionally they still have a sentence or two, although not much, but after a long time, they gradually become familiar with each other. This kind of thing is inevitable, but it is also very common, and it did not attract anyone's attention. It is worth mentioning that after the end of the first day of school, Naruto seemed to really follow Ryosuke's advice and went to the third Hokage to ask something. I don't know what bewitched him. When he came to school early the next morning, Ryosuke found that his whole personality had changed. He became positive and cheerful, and he was determined to become a Hokage. He kept shouting that he wanted everyone in the village to recognize his existence. On the first day of school, Iruka, who had originally hated Naruto like some people in the village due to misunderstanding, seemed to be interviewed by the third generation and told part of the truth about Naruto's life. This incident instantly turned Iruka's hatred into guilt and sympathy. And this change also made him attach great importance to Naruto. As long as it was his course, Naruto would really master the knowledge and would not let him slack off at all. After feeling Iruka's kindness, Naruto slowly accepted him. Although he always disliked him, he cherished this importance in his heart. Everything seemed to have not changed because of the appearance of Hyuga Ryosuke, as if everything was turning according to the original history. But with a butterfly like him, how could the timeline be the same as before? Inuzuka Kiba, weren't you very good at actual combat last time? Do you dare to do it again? Why not? Uchiha Sasuke, I want to challenge you. In this world where the strong are respected, the noisy break time after class is very long. Many people will take this opportunity to challenge in the school's unique training ground to vent the boredom brought to their hearts by theoretical courses. Whether it is Sasuke, who appears to be cold on the surface like Hinata, or the characters in the plot that Ryosuke is familiar with, no one rejects or retreats. As long as there is a challenge, almost everyone will accept it, and few people refuse. And this kind of scene, which was called a fight in the school in the previous life, is allowed in this world. The system of the ninja school tacitly accepts the existence of such a fight, and even appoints teachers to keep an eye on the battle situation in the training ground, so that there will be no children who really get angry and don't know how to deal with it. However, even if there are many teachers watching, there will always be times when they can't catch up with the rescue. Therefore, there are students who stop school or even drop out because of serious injuries. Generally, in this case, the school will mediate and ask the student who hit too hard to pay a certain degree of compensation, but will not persuade him to quit. Fighting will inevitably cause injuries, which is a very common thing in this world. But for this matter, Ryosuke, after my chakra is refined, why does it seem difficult to control it? Can you do it? Naruto sat next to Ryosuke in distress and complained to him. I can't. Ryosuke shook his head, replied briefly, and then turned his attention back to the ninja manual in front of him. But he seemed to be reading a book, but in fact, he was thinking about one thing in his heart. That is why Naruto did not go to the training ground to fight with those hot-blooded and aggressive guys in the class, but followed him and stayed in the class to study like several girls in the class who pursued theoretical course grades. So far, most of the plot is still in line with the original timeline. There has been no huge change because of his appearance. But now, it seems that he thought too simply. As the destiny of this world, any change in Naruto will have a great impact on the future timeline of this world. Naruto, who should have been naughty and wanted to attract other people's attention and make his presence felt through pranks, actually stayed in the classroom with Ryosuke, studying the ninja manual together and learning theoretical knowledge together. This change is really too big. Not that hot-blooded, innocent and lively boy, this Naruto in front of him, can he still master his most powerful secret technique in the future, mouth to mouth? But why? With this doubt in his heart, Ryosuke thought about everything he had done from the past to the present. To be honest, he didn't even have the opportunity to see Naruto before, and it was impossible for him to have any impact on him. The only possible thing is in school. Is it because he sits here and he becomes his deskmate, that this change has occurred? No, that's not right. Soon, when Ryosuke saw Haruno Sakura in front of him, who was talking to Hinata, he seemed to understand something. Ryosuke suddenly spoke up and asked Naruto, who was closing his eyes and struggling to control his chakra, "Naruto, what do you think of Sakura?" Originally, Naruto was trying to control his chakra in his body according to the contents of the ninja manual. But Ryosuke's question directly interrupted his concentration, and all the chakra that he barely controlled collapsed and dissipated in the meridians. "What are you doing, Ryosuke? I almost succeeded in running a week." Naruto was so angry that he scratched his head, but because Ryosuke was his deskmate and had no ill will towards him, his tone was not so angry. Looking at his appearance, Ryosuke smiled apologetically and asked again, "I suddenly had a question just now, what do you think of Sakura?" Sakura. Naruto was stunned for a moment, and seemed to have not recovered from the name. Then, he realized, "Oh, you mean Haruno Sakura. She's pretty good, second in the theory exam." Then, Naruto became curious again, "Why are you asking this?" "Nothing, you continue." Ryosuke waved his hand and lowered his head to read again, which made Naruto next to him a little puzzled. But there was no way, he didn't have many friends, almost none. For Ryosuke, who was willing to talk to him and didn't reject him, Naruto still cherished and tolerated him. So that's how it is. After confirming that in this world, in this new timeline, Naruto did not have a love for Haruno Sakura, Ryosuke immediately figured out what happened. Perhaps because of Hinata's changes, she had a good relationship with Shikamaru and the other 4 people in the group and often had contact. So, Haruno Sakura missed the opportunity to save Naruto. Naruto did not fall in love with the pink-haired girl during the rescue process, nor did he become jealous and mischievous because Haruno Sakura liked Uchiha Sasuke. A person's personality will change because of the people around him. Perhaps in Ryosuke's impression, Naruto inherited Kushina's personality, so he is carefree, active and mischievous. But in fact, Naruto's personality can become like Kushina. A big reason is that he met Haruno Sakura and her violent side. Then, under the influence of his beloved, Haruno Sakura, he became active and outgoing, and began to get to know people like Shikamaru, and had a good relationship with Inuzuka Kiba among them. Inuzuka Kiba's personality is similar to that of Haruno Sakura, but it is more obvious, carefree and lawless. So after the two of them became friends, they often skipped classes together in the original timeline. And later, Iruka taught him tolerance. These people all had the right influence on the character of young Naruto at the right time. But now, Naruto was not influenced by Haruno Sakura, and he did not become friends with Shikamaru and the others. In other words, except for the fact that he was positive and cheerful about becoming a Hokage under the influence of the third Hokage, he was still the same character in other matters. That is, he was lonely and introverted. And such a Naruto, can he still be as sunny as the original and become a little sun? With this question in his mind, Ryosuke turned his head and stared at Naruto, who was closing his eyes and practicing hard to become a Hokage. He looked at the rest of the class again, paying special attention to the rejection and disgust in some people's eyes. A bright smile bloomed on his face. He was looking forward to Naruto's growth and whether this little guy would become the silly boy who was willing to give silently without asking for anything in return. Naruto in Ryosuke's timeline was not affected by some outgoing and optimistic people. He was frighteningly well behaved. Although Naruto didn't know how to make the villagers agree with him, he knew what kind of person could become a Hokage, that is, a powerful and great ninja. Therefore, he didn't compete with Uchiha Sasuke for the first place, and didn't fight with other classmates. Understanding his own problems and finding ways to solve them are the characteristics that Ryosuke found in this Naruto. This also made him appreciate Naruto more and more. He found his own shadow in this guy. They are both orphans, and they are also so strong and work hard silently. Ryosuke, do you know how to control the chakra in my body? Naruto seemed to be able to feel Ryosuke's attention and appreciation, and became closer and closer to him. Although on the surface, Ryosuke didn't pay much attention to him, but answered every question. Regarding chakra control, there is relevant content in the Ninja Learning Manual. I think you have read it. Looking at the distressed Naruto beside him, Ryosuke smiled and explained, chakra control is a necessary condition for becoming a ninja. Even if you extract chakra, if you don't have the ability to use it, you can't use ninjutsu, so. I know this, I just want to know how to control it. Why can you all do it, but I can't? Naruto scratched his head, it's obviously very smooth to extract chakra. I even feel that my chakra amount is thicker than many classmates in the class. But every time I use chakra, I can feel that most of the chakra is lost during the operation, as if it is pulled deeper into the body. As he spoke, he stretched out his palm and unconsciously touched his abdomen. Every time, most of the chakra was lost here. He didn't know where the chakra went, and he couldn't find out. I don't know about these things. There is no explanation in the ninja manual, but I think you can try to ask the third generation. Ryosuke had the same smile on his face as always, and inadvertently guided him to find Sarutobi Hiruzen again to ask the truth. There are many things that he can't tell Naruto. Naruto's identity is very sensitive, and his existence is also very sensitive. As a war weapon, he can have such a relatively free life, which is completely protected by Sarutobi Hiruzen. Therefore, Sarutobi Hiruzen values him very much and is very vigilant. He has always sent many ninjas to secretly monitor Naruto, and even uses the telescope technique from time to time to spy on Naruto's life. With such a premise, although Ryosuke admires Naruto, he cannot teach and guide Naruto openly. He can only become a guide hidden in the dark. Sarutobi Hiruzen hopes to control Naruto in his hands, let him inherit the will of fire, and become a ninja like Namikaze Minato. Then Ryosuke will go with the flow and push Naruto in front of Sarutobi Hiruzen. In general, Sarutobi Hiruzen will never hurt Naruto, at least not before he officially becomes a ninja. But whether he can maintain his consciousness and judgment under Sarutobi Hiruzen's constant indoctrination depends on the ability of this somewhat lonely and introverted Naruto. Although the third generation is very good to you, everyone is different. If you want to become a real Hokage and want to be recognized by others, you can't just follow his path. After school, before leaving school, Ryosuke stood up and whispered to Naruto, otherwise, everyone in the village can only recognize you because of what Sarutobi Hiruzen did, not because of your efforts. Ryosuke. Naruto stared at his smile in a daze, a little confused. See you tomorrow. Ryosuke nodded at him and left the classroom with Hinata next to him. After he left, because of class time, the Anbu ninja who had briefly ended the surveillance appeared nearby again. Thanks to the perception ability brought by this pair of powerful white eyes, every time someone who was monitoring Naruto appeared around, or when Sarutobi Hiruzen spied on Naruto through the telescope technique, Ryosuke could avoid it in advance. Ryosuke, you seem to be very optimistic about Uzumaki Naruto. Father said that you can't have too much contact with him. On the way home, there were only Ryosuke and Hinata. As if she noticed Ryosuke's different attitude towards Naruto, she spoke in a low voice. I don't have much contact with Naruto. Although we are deskmates, we have spoken no more than 20 times in almost a month since the start of school. Ryosuke replied casually. While walking, his hands slid in the void, his fingertips lightly tapping, as if there was a huge piano in front of him. But, Hinata hesitated a little. She always felt that the relationship between Ryosuke and Naruto was not that simple. You know, Hinata. But before she could say the doubts in her heart, Ryosuke had already spoken again. In this world, there is an argument called destiny. It means that everyone's fate is predetermined from the moment they are born to the moment they die. What do you think of this view? His tone seemed indifferent and calm, not as gentle as before. And there was no smile on his face either, with a kind of calmness that looked down on everything from a high position. After thinking about this question carefully, Hinata replied, I can't accept it. It's normal. No one wants everything to be arranged for them. Ryosuke's fingertips were still tapping in the void, but Hinata didn't feel strange at all, thinking that he was like a crazy patient. It turned out, it wasn't a piano. In front of Ryosuke, a chessboard suddenly appeared, and his fingers that had been tapping were actually pressing on the chess pieces on the chessboard, moving their positions. This was an illusion, and Hinata realized it at the first time. After all, the appearance of this chessboard was too abrupt. But she didn't use the chakra in her body to break free from the illusion. She wanted to know what Ryosuke was doing. If this chessboard is compared to what I call fate, and these chess pieces are those people. Ryosuke explained softly, then every time these chess pieces turn around and move from where they were supposed to step, I will be very interested. I really want to know what these chess pieces that have deviated from their original fate will become, and in this process, I don't mind pushing them 1 or 2 steps forward to make them move faster. Ryosuke. Hinata's eyes were filled with fear and uneasiness. She felt a tremendous pressure from Ryosuke. It was like standing alone on the beach, facing the surging waves. This pressure made her unable to speak and finish the rest. She was trembling all over. Even though she was much stronger than before, she couldn't suppress the fear that rose from the bottom of her heart. Sorry. Realizing that Hinata was not right, Ryosuke quickly suppressed the restless chakra in his body, stretched out his hand to hold her little hand tightly, and comforted her. Just now, he seemed to have entered a very subtle state. It was as if he could really see everything that would happen in the future, instead of just relying on the plot in his mind to make inferences. It was a state where everything was operating in his mind, including the survival of this planet. But after waking up from that state, he seemed to have seen nothing and remembered nothing. Thanks to book friends Zhu and Siju Wang and Li Tongming for their rewards and support. Under the cold moonlight, Ryosuke lay in the room, looking up at the starry sky through the skylight. His palm gently stroked his cheek, and his fingers felt the touch from his pupils, just like stroking a slightly hard ball. Looking back at what happened on the road after school in the afternoon, his mind was a mess, and he could not remember the specific content he saw at that time. This is very unusual. You know, Ryosuke has a very good memory. Even in his previous life, he could still have a relatively clear memory of some small things that happened in his childhood, not to mention what happened in the afternoon. But the current situation is that he can't remember everything that happened at that time, only impressions, very vague impressions. The previous fragment of the memory was saying goodbye to Naruto and coming out of the classroom with Hinata. And then, Hinata looked at him trembling all over, as if facing some vicious devil. Every movement and expression on her face was full of fear. So, what about the middle part? On Liang Jia's expressionless face, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the fingers placed on the edge of his eye sockets tapped his eyelids unconsciously. He was sure that he would not forget this part, but there was no situation of being possessed or taking over, so there was only one possibility. That is, he could not bear it. Although he had no memory and could not remember what he saw at that time, Liang Jia still had the feeling at that time. It was a kind of omnipotent power. It was as if the gods who were high above, sitting in the sky, looked down at the mortals on the ground who were constantly fighting because of desire. His eyes and any random movements could bring endless blood and rain to the world. In this feeling, he saw a lot of unbearable things and lost this part of the memory. Could it be the ability brought by these eyes? Liang Jia analyzed this situation. Now it has been 5 years since he came to this world. Another 3 years is about to expire, and the experience bar in his mind, which is the source of his white eyes and blood evolution, is gradually approaching the end. Last time, this experience bar reached 100%, which gave him an optimization of his bloodline, allowing him to have a Byakugan that surpassed ordinary Hyuga, and his Byakugan had some of the power of the ancient Otsutsuki clan. So he analyzed that it might be because this experience bar was about to reach completion, so it stimulated the ability of his Byakugan. And as long as he waited until he was 6 years old, when the 6 years since he came to this world were up, his bloodline and Byakugan would go a step further, and he would get more abilities of the Otsutsuki clan. For example, seeing through the future. While thinking, Ryosuke's Byakugan had already opened unconsciously. Under the moonlight, on his face, the pair of pupils that were no different from ordinary Byakugan revealed a trace of crystal. The Byakugan of the Hyuga clan and the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan were actually the abilities of the ancient Otsutsuki clan, and the two clans were originally of the same origin. The Sharingan that runs through the entire future timeline of the ninja world will evolve under certain conditions and become the Samsara Eye possessed by the Six Paths Sage, which has extremely powerful power. The same is true for the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan. As long as the purity is sufficient, and the chakra of the Otsutsuki clan is injected, it can evolve into the Samsara Eye, which has the same power as the Samsara Eye. However, this does not mean that the Byakugan is not as good as the Samsara Eye. It also does not mean that the Sharingan is not as good as the Samsara Eye. All things in the world may have inherent strengths and weaknesses, but innate deficiencies can also be made up for by acquired factors. This is the path that Ryosuke has always believed in since his previous life. There is no absolute power, but it depends on how powerful the person who uses the power is. Before the Mangekyo, the Sharingan will slowly awaken the three abilities of insight, replication, and hypnosis with the number of Magatama, and after opening the Mangekyo, according to the loopholes in the heart, awaken its own unique abilities, which is the eye of the soul. And the Byakugan, after awakening through training, can have the three abilities of insight and perspective, and improve vision. This is the ordinary Byakugan, which is the Byakugan after the degeneration of thousands of years. But the real Byakugan has far more abilities than these. The experience bar reaches the maximum value, breaking the limit and evolving the bloodline. In fact, it is more like giving Ryosuke a key, allowing him to ignore the degradation of thousands of years and try to touch the real Byakugan, the Byakugan of thousands of years ago. Although the illusion ability of his Byakugan is obtained by bloodline evolution, it is not actually available at the moment of awakening, but Ryosuke tried to develop it himself. As a reborn person, he knows very well what kind of power the real Byakugan will have. Illusion is just one part of it. Just like the Samsara Eye, releasing one's own momentum to form pressure is also one of them. There is even a space-time ninjutsu like Uchiha Obito's Kamui, which can virtualize oneself and transfer oneself between the other world and the real world, see through the hearts of others, see through the fate of others. These powerful abilities are actually what a real Byakugan should have. Of course, it is also possible that they are abilities developed by the Otsutsuki clan. The previous generation planted trees, and the next generation enjoyed the shade. Just like it took Minato Namikaze several years to develop the Rasengan, and it only took Naruto half a month to learn the Rasengan, as long as you know what the result is, you don't need to directly develop such complicated energy to try to restore and learn. But after all, it is a pupil technique, which is already a bloodline limit level ninjutsu. So even if Ryosuke knows the final result, it is not easy to develop these abilities. At least until now, he is still in a confused stage. Nowadays, Ryosuke has only developed two abilities, illusion and pressure. Among them, illusion is already fully proficient, and pressure like the Samsara Eye needs to be improved. Normally, he cannot use it at will. Only in certain circumstances, when it matches his own emotions, can he release substantial pressure through the Byakugan and affect reality. However, today's unknown change has given Ryosuke a new understanding and experience of the ability of coercion. The reason is the feeling of being high above and looking down on everything. Coercion is the ability to reach the extreme of mental power and then use the Byakugan as a medium to cause substantial damage to the surroundings. This is the conclusion that Ryosuke has drawn through the results he knows. And under this conclusion, he continues to try to develop. It is easy to perceive mental power, and it is also easy to control mental power. The condensation of chakra is the combination of mental power and physical power, so Ryosuke can do both easily. The difficult part is how to release the mental power in the body through the Byakugan. There are two difficulties in this process, which have troubled Ryosuke for nearly a year. The first is that when the mental power condenses near the eye socket, it will be absorbed by the Byakugan and become pupil power, making him more sensitive in the use of other abilities. But this is not what he wants. What he wants is to release this power. The second is that Ryosuke's mental power is not that strong. Although his two lives as a human have made him far superior to his peers in terms of spirit, this spiritual power is still not enough for him to release and become a substantial force to have a huge impact on the real world. These two problems are fatal, and are also the reason why Ryosuke has not been able to master new abilities. The pressure that the Byakugan can cause may not focus on the output of spiritual energy. This is the reason that Ryosuke suddenly remembered after feeling the godlike power. All along, because he only knew the result, he knew that the Byakugan could release substantial pressure around like the Samsara Eye, but he didn't know how Kagaya Otsutsuki did it. Therefore, in the process of thinking, he often boldly tried various methods, not limited to one way. Through spiritual energy, using the Byakugan as a medium, to cause pressure on the body, this situation requires extremely huge energy as a foundation to achieve. Kagaya Otsutsuki may have this ability, but Ryosuke does not have it at present. That is to say, if he wants to use this ability, his Byakugan needs to have an amplifying effect on this spiritual energy. But this is another problem. The extension of one problem after another, and many attempts, made Ryosuke stagnate on this problem for a long time. But now, he has a new direction, that is, momentum. This elusive, but no matter in the past life or the present life, there are many records of the ethereal theory. The word, momentum, is very illusory. A more scientific way of saying it is that momentum is roughly equal to the magnetic field generated by a person. And because everyone has different experiences, the magnetic field of each person is also different. Those who have experienced more, have a higher status, or are very capable, have a very strong influence after a long period of nurturing their magnetic field and momentum. Just standing there, you can unconsciously attract other people's attention. And those who have always been ordinary and go with the flow, their magnetic field matches the public, and the result of this situation is that the momentum seems to be there and not there, making people feel no sense of existence. In Ryosuke's previous life, the terms such as momentum and magnetic field were actually verified by relevant experiments, but after all, he was not a professional in this field, so he didn't know much. However, with this opportunity, he really felt what those theories meant, and he experienced it personally. At that time, did he increase the amount of chakra, or the pupil power, or the physical strength? No, Ryosuke was very sure that he had not improved in all aspects of his known strength at that time. If nothing had improved, why would he have the illusion that he had become stronger? Was it a wrong perception caused by emotions such as self-confidence, arrogance? No, that's not right. Ryosuke knew very well that it was a substantial strength. Although there was no improvement in all aspects, it had changed from another level and affected the people around him, causing Hinata to feel fear at that time. It was an invisible and illusory change, just like momentum. It was not easy to get back to the state at that time. Without memory, Ryosuke didn't know what happened or what he saw at that time. He could only remember the feeling at that time. Wanting to be here, Ryosuke, who was lying flat on the bed and looking at the vast starry sky through the skylight, had a different look in his eyes. Various emotions slowly disappeared from his eyes and his body. He was trying to enter the state at that time to feel the so-called momentum and learn to use it. Then integrate this ability into the white eyes, becoming the so-called prestige and substantial power. But this is not easy. So, I am a monster. For the whole morning, Ryosuke's 5 senses, which are more acute than those of ordinary people, allowed him to clearly hear Naruto's almost silent whispers beside him. Did Sarutobi Hiruzen finally tell him clearly about the 9 tails? He quickly judged what happened from Naruto's whispers. Now, it has been more than a month since the start of school. The entrance test has ended and the class division has been completed. As Ryosuke expected, there is almost no change in the students in this class. Except for the last few children from ordinary ninja families who were overtaken by the top students of other classes who came later and left this class, there was almost no change, and all the family members were there. And Naruto beside him, since that day when he pestered him to ask about chakra control, but was guided by him to ask Sarutobi Hiruzen, he insisted on this matter day and night. At the beginning, Sarutobi Hiruzen certainly didn't tell Naruto the truth, and didn't tell him that his chakra couldn't be well controlled because there was another force and consciousness in his body interfering. Relying on his title as a ninjutsu doctor, he told Naruto a lot of theoretical knowledge, which confused him. But after all, the current Naruto is different from the mischievous and study-hating person in the original timeline. There are no pranks, and he will not challenge others casually. Based on his identity, no one challenged him. In this way, being excluded by most people, the lonely Naruto could only spend a lot of time on studying, so his theoretical knowledge was very solid, and he even ranked third in the class, second only to Hinata and Haruno Sakura. Therefore, it was not so easy for Sarutobi Hiruzen to fool Naruto about the chakra control. In just over a week, Ryosuke saw Sarutobi Hiruzen's giving up. However, even if he heard Naruto's murmur, Ryosuke did not take the initiative to talk to Naruto. Almost every time, he waited for Naruto to take the initiative to talk to him. He believed that this time Naruto would take the initiative to ask him about the monster. The lunch break was very peaceful. After having lunch with Hinata, he rested for a while and started the afternoon class. Most of the day passed, and Naruto sat in his seat, motionless. But in the end, he still spoke as Ryosuke expected. Ryosuke, there was still a little time before school was over, and Iruka was still on the podium explaining the theoretical knowledge of how to make poison. Taking this opportunity, Naruto spoke in a low voice, and his voice reached the ears of Ryosuke, who was listening attentively. "What's wrong?" Ryosuke turned his head in confusion. "You said, if." "Forget it, I seem to know the specific reason why people in the village hate me." Originally, he was thinking of some euphemistic and tentative questions, but after facing Ryosuke's gentle eyes, Naruto suddenly put away this idea and mustered up the courage to speak his mind. Hearing his straightforward question, Ryosuke smiled and asked casually, "So, what is it?" Opening his mouth, Naruto swallowed the words to his lips. He didn't know how to describe it, he was at a loss and a little anxious. But soon, he seemed to have thought of how to express it. He pointed his finger at his abdomen and said to Ryosuke seriously, "There is a big fox living in my body. A fox that is very large and makes me feel very evil." Really, everyone else in the classroom was listening quietly, and no one paid attention to the situation in the last row. Even Iruka, who had always paid close attention to Naruto, seemed to have temporarily forgotten his existence. You know." Ryosuke's calm answer and expression stunned the nervous and tangled Naruto. But after a while, he seemed to remember something. "Yes, you are from the Hyuga clan, you should know, but..." From his third-generation grandfather, he learned about the origin of the fox in his body, the tailed beast. The tailed beast is a very destructive beast, the god among beasts. In the ninja world, there are 9 tailed beasts, distinguished by the number of tails, and the fox in his body is called the 9-tailed demon fox, the most powerful among the tailed beasts, the god of the beasts. Because the power of the tailed beasts is too strong, in order to prevent the ninja world from suffering a disaster, the first generation of Hokage suppressed the 9-tailed beasts and evenly distributed them to the major ninja villages to maintain the balance of the ninja world. The 9-tailed demon fox is the tailed beast that the Fire Country got. And he is the container of the tailed beast in this generation. But why is it him, and why did Ryosuke know about this, but kept it from him, and why did the third-generation grandfather not explain it to him until now? Many questions emerged in Naruto's mind, like big hands, stirring his restless heart since yesterday. "We haven't known each other for a long time, but in my impression, you are a relatively rational person." Naruto didn't finish his words, but Ryosuke understood what he meant and explained softly, "Although you can think calmly about most things, you are particularly susceptible to emotions and make some wrong judgments on certain issues. Are you afraid that I will react greatly after I know about this? Will it affect the village?" Naruto interrupted Ryosuke's words, and his fists, which were clenched because of nervousness, clenched even tighter, and the chakra in his body was surging with emotions. To be honest, he has been very excited since he heard the truth. It was as if there was a fire burning in his body, destroying all his rationality. He knew he should be calm, but he could not suppress this fire by himself. There were no other friends around him. He could only ask for help from his deskmate, the seemingly gentle Ryosuke. "I'm not afraid that you will affect the village. You have no chance." Seeing his excitement, Ryosuke didn't care. He shook his head calmly. "You have no ability to affect the village, even if you have that fox in your stomach. Since the fox will be locked in your body, it means that the village has no shortage of means to control him. I'm mainly afraid that after you know this, you will do something that you will regret in the future. Ryosuke's tone was calm. Although there was no illusion, it made Naruto feel a little more at ease. He relaxed his clenched fists a little. Naruto didn't quite understand what Ryosuke meant. First of all, do you think you are an alien? Ryosuke asked again. His face seemed casual and gentle, but his heart was already full of vigilance. Since Naruto went to school today, there has been a prying gaze lingering around them. Unlike the previous peeping at a distance, this time, Ryosuke can feel that the peeping is very close. It is Sarutobi Hiruzen. Others may not know, but Ryosuke knows very well who the owner of this gaze is. The telescope technique is a technique performed with the help of special ninja tools. The principle is that as long as the chakra characteristics of the character are mastered, remote monitoring can be carried out directly. Although the range is limited, this technique can definitely be called a perception ninjutsu above level A. And since it is a ninjutsu, there must be traces of chakra. The reason why Ryosuke can detect Sarutobi Hiruzen nearby is partly because of the blessing of the Byakugan for perception ability, but also partly because he has been used to Sarutobi Hiruzen's chakra in the past month. Therefore, he knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen was right beside them, hiding in the dark and observing them, or rather, observing Naruto. Perhaps since yesterday, when he was entangled by Naruto and had no choice but to tell Naruto the truth, he has been following him secretly until now. If Naruto's emotions became uncontrollable during this process because of the truth, and he was bewitched by the 9 tails in his body, perhaps he would directly suppress him. An alien. Naruto laughed bitterly. Am I not an alien? Even in this state, am I not an alien? When this sentence was said, Ryosuke could clearly sense that Sarutobi Hiruzen was standing outside the closed classroom door, most likely with his back against the wall, listening to the conversation here. His breath leaked a little because of Naruto's words, allowing Ryosuke, who could only sense his existence but did not know his specific location, to sense where he was hiding. It doesn't matter what others think of you. The key is how you think of yourself. Ryosuke retracted his calm attitude and smiled warmly. First of all, you must be a person with independent ideas, not a beast or a god among beasts. You can think of yourself as a prison, a tool to imprison this brutal beast, but you can also think of yourself as a hero and bear this responsibility for others. Hero. Naruto seemed to have never thought of this title and was a little bit unbelievable. He didn't think this title could be applied to him. He was rejected by the villagers since he was a child. If he was a hero, he should be loved by everyone like the 3rd-generation grandfather, right? I said, the key is how you identify yourself and how you position yourself. Ryosuke continued to speak, as if explaining his inner thoughts. I remember, your dream is to become a Hokage. All of a sudden, Naruto's originally more confused and tangled heart seemed to understand something. Outside the door, Sarutobi Hiruzen's originally somewhat uneasy breath seemed to stabilize with Naruto's emotions and Ryosuke's words. Compared to other people in the village who have been doing nothing all their lives and have never made any contributions to the village, you have been carrying the mission of protecting the village since you were born. The tailed beast in your body is indeed a very powerful existence. Any violent riot may directly destroy a small country, but since you have been the prison that holds it, our village has not suffered any losses. This is what you have done. Ryosuke stretched out his finger and pointed at Naruto. And the current situation is that those villagers don't know what you are carrying. They don't understand what the tailed beast is, because this matter is confidential. I think the 3rd generation has also reminded you that your existence is very important to the village. They are laughing at your dream because of their ignorance, thinking that this is an impossible thing to accomplish, but what if one day they understand it? If they understand the facts you are carrying one day, will they agree to let you become Hokage? Me. A few words directly touched Naruto's heart. His originally dull eyes became brighter, and he felt his blood boiling. He couldn't wait to see that day, to see the scene of everyone surrounding him in the sun. At the same time, these words gave Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was outside the door, a deeper thought. Looking at Naruto, whose eyes were burning like a raging fire in his heart, Ryosuke chuckled and shook his head. In his perception, Sarutobi Hiruzen had left the classroom after he said that. Perhaps in his heart, he thought that Naruto would not change for the time being, but he might have become interested in himself, the little son-in-law of the Hyuga clan who was originally unknown. Although he didn't know what Sarutobi Hiruzen's original idea was, Ryosuke felt that the idea he gave him should be a good one. Regardless of the plot he saw in his previous life or the information he collected in this life, he could clearly tell that Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to support Naruto to become Hokage. Although he didn't know what kind of psychology this was, perhaps it was guilt for the fourth generation, or for the stability of his own faction, but this was an unchanging fact. Ryosuke believed that although the third generation didn't know too much about what he had done all along, he should still know more or less. He has been pushing Naruto, who most people think is a war machine, towards the third generation, and today he gave him such an idea. He should be able to see the goodwill of the Hyuga clan. This is what Ryosuke wants Sarutobi Hiruzen to think of as a goodwill. Naruto, what are you doing? Listen to the class carefully. After Sarutobi Hiruzen left, the classroom returned to its usual state. And Iruka on the podium also abruptly realized that he seemed to have been ignoring Naruto today. When he looked over, he found that the boy had stood up at some point, smiling, and seemed to be talking to Ryosuke at his desk. Sorry, Teacher Iruka. Naruto seemed to have just remembered that he was in class. After smiling apologetically, he sat back down and listened to the class seriously. He was more focused and motivated than before, and Ryosuke next to him kept a smile on his face and looked at the scene calmly. Except for Ryosuke, who was sitting at the same table with Naruto, no one in the class noticed anything unusual. No one noticed that Naruto in the last row had been ignored for most of the day. Sarutobi Hiruzen, who is known as the ninjutsu doctor, is really amazing. Because the Hyuga clan is a physical family, this is the first time that Ryosuke has seen such a powerful illusion in all these years. Using illusion, Sarutobi Hiruzen blocked almost everyone in the classroom from seeing Naruto, and after the illusion ended, he did not feel any discomfort. Is this the strength of the shadow of a village? Ryosuke's vigilance against other ninjas increased again, and he had a deeper affirmation of what he had just done. It was a decision that Ryosuke and Hyuga Hiyashi had discussed to show goodwill to Sarutobi's Hokage faction. The Hyuga clan's current status in the village is temporarily awkward. They are in the same position as the Uchiha clan, which is almost isolated by the entire village, and they are competing for the position of the largest clan in Konoha. But in some cases, they also check and balance each other to prevent one family from dominating. If Ryosuke thinks positively about what happened to Hyuga Hiyashi in the original timeline, it means that Sarutobi Hiruzen is old and does not have the courage to face the war when he was young. He is just an old man who hopes to keep the peace of the village and spend his old age in peace. But if he thinks negatively, it may be that Sarutobi Hiruzen intends to take the opportunity to knock and test the Hyuga clan to see if they will give in, or just take his orders and go against his will like the Uchiha clan. After all, Ryosuke has not yet seen through people's hearts. Although the incident of Hyuga Hiyashi did not happen in this timeline, there are some things he has to guard against. He is about to turn 6 years old, and the progress bar in his mind is about to be full, and he begins to transform again. And Sasuke, who is in the same class with him, is also about to turn 6 years old. This means that the Uchiha clan is going to be gone, and their enemies in Hyuga are going to be gone. At that time, the Hyuga clan will be the largest clan in the village, and this title is well deserved. But this will also make their clan a new thorn in the eyes of others. In the timeline without the sacrifice of Hyuga Hizashi, Ryosuke cannot guarantee whether the Hyuga clan will spend the rest of the days in peace and tranquility as before. Although they, the Hyuga clan, can become the best reconnaissance ninjas on the battlefield because of their Byakugan, will not be easily swept away by the village, and will not make the village as wary as the Uchiha clan. But after all, it is still a large clan, and they have always maintained independent thinking. If they do not integrate into the village, they will definitely be excluded and isolated. Showing goodwill to the Hokage faction is a good way for the Hyuga clan to maintain a stable path in the future. It was already afternoon, and after talking to Naruto, they did not actually have a long class and ended today's class. Unlike the usual dullness, Naruto seemed very excited after school today. He even planned to go to the trial field once to compete with others and vent his inner excitement. Even if he was beaten badly, it didn't matter. Anyway, the powerful self-healing ability brought by the fox in his body would solve his injuries very well. You seem very excited about what I said to you this afternoon. Seeing Naruto was about to pack up the table and leave, Ryosuke whispered something when he passed by. Naruto, who was originally in a hurry to leave, stopped. Do you remember what I said to you? He smiled and looked at Naruto, who turned back and was a little confused. The point is, how do you think of yourself in your heart, remember? Naruto's eyes were even more confused. He didn't understand what Ryosuke meant. In the afternoon, he did hear such a sentence. The goal of becoming Hokage, is it really your own choice? But then, Ryosuke's other words made Naruto's excited expression on his face freeze. When I said that to you in the afternoon, I heard that there were more than just you. I said this, do you understand what I mean? Ryosuke continued to speak, and the white eyes on his face had quietly opened without knowing when. After school, there were not many students in the classroom. Except for Hinata, who was still waiting for him, no one paid attention to them. The ninjas who used to monitor Naruto were gone, and Sarutobi Hiruzen had just left. This moment might be the freest time for Naruto in his first half of his life. Naruto was a little at a loss. He wanted to ask something, but he couldn't. Under the gaze of Ryosuke's eyes, his mouth was tightly closed, and he couldn't ask a single word. Even if you have that big fox in your belly, the village has ways to control him. You should remember what I said, right? Ryosuke continued to speak, and there was no smile on his face, and he returned to his initial calmness. The invisible momentum rose from him, making Naruto dare not look directly at him. After a month of contact, I think you are pretty good. Hide yourself well and find the path you really want to take, Naruto. Taking a step forward quietly, Ryosuke leaned over and leaned close to his ear, and whispered, I hope you can always stay calm and rational. If you are found out, please forget what I just said. I don't want others to find me. The moment the words fell, the whiteness in his pupils seemed to light up a little, but it quickly dimmed. I will take a leave recently. I hope you can be better when I see you next time. Just like the day not long ago, Ryosuke left Naruto's heart with a great shock, and silently took Hinata out of the classroom, leaving him alone in a daze. On the way home, Ryosuke was in a very happy mood, inexplicably happy. This kind of emotion rarely reacts to other things except practice. Why do you say this? From that day on, although Ryosuke didn't know what he saw specifically, his original idea of not wanting to have too much contact with these dangerous people seemed to have changed. His heart told him to try to contact them. As for why he told Naruto this, it can only be said that compared to forcing Naruto to find a path like Sarutobi Hiruzen, Ryosuke hoped that Naruto could find a path on his own. At least, he didn't want Naruto to be the silly boy who kept shouting, I want to be Hokage, from beginning to end. He wanted to see different content. It is both high and deep. The turbulent waterfall is like a rolling wave, rushing down from the sky, violently hitting the river at the bottom of the valley, and stirring the flow rate. Outside the Konoha village, in the Valley of the End, Ryosuke and his two guards, Soji and Shinkai, stood on the surface of the rapid water, staring at the two huge, godlike sculptures. The first generation of Hokage, Senju Hashirama. The strongest clan leader of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Madara. The valley is very deep. From the surface of the water where Ryosuke and the others are standing, looking up along the waterfall, it is like being trapped in a deep abyss without light, swallowed by darkness. On both sides of the canyon, the stone walls carved with Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara appear lifelike under the scouring of the water. Their faces are at the top of the canyon. Looking up from the bottom, it seems to be in the clouds. The postures and looks of the two people seemed to have not given up their respective beliefs and conclusions until the last moment of the battle. At the moment of their lives ending, they still maintained the movements before them, turning into two statues, arguing that their theories were correct. No matter how many times you see it, it is so spectacular. Just as Ryosuke was quietly looking at the two statues in front of him, Hyuga Soji behind him said with some emotion, Master Ryosuke, you may not know that our generation often came to visit the Valley of the End when we were students. And every time we come, the Uchiha in each class will always be more arrogant. Hinata Shinkai also followed up with a conversation, it's ridiculous that the entire Uchiha clan abandoned Uchiha Madara and supported Senju Hashirama's theory. I didn't expect that the descendants would actually start to regard themselves as the honor that Uchiha Madara had. But if Uchiha Madara had become Hokage back then, perhaps the ninja world would not have ushered in a peaceful era, but would only have been in war for years. Soji began to express his opinion again. The two expressed their own opinions and talked about the Uchiha issue. Ryosuke did not speak and followed them, but listened quietly to their narration, while looking forward to the traces left by the great battle that year on the Valley of the End. Many rock walls in the valley have traces of being burned by high concentration fire. It should be caused by Uchiha Madara's fire escape. Similarly, there are many traces left by Senju Hashirama. Most of them are fist and palm prints. These fist and palm prints are not made by hand, and they appear small in front of the huge canyon. Instead, they are the big pits bombarded by the huge Guanyin statue condensed by Senju Hashirama's would-escape ninjutsu, the top Buddha in the true thousand-hand state. Even the huge cracks in the Valley of the End were caused by the battle between Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara at that time. Is this really the impact of the battle between ninjas? With trembling hands, Ryosuke stroked the potholes on the rock wall expressionlessly, feeling the cruelty and fierceness of the battle at that time. Decades have passed, and the traces left by the battle are still there, which shows how shocking the scale of the battle was. Ryosuke's heart was surging, and there were few things that could make him so excited. It was like he got a book of immortal cultivation in modern times, just practicing bodybuilding, and he was complacent because of his extraordinariness. But during an accidental trip, he suddenly saw the traces left by the ancient monks in the Yuenshin Crossing tribulation period, and suddenly it was like opening another door, a vast and solemn door. This road has been walked by someone. The journey on this road made him even more excited. Normally, Ryosuke's battle with Hyuga Hiyashi seemed to be a battle between ninjas, and it was already extremely powerful beyond mortals. But now, coming to this deep valley, he understands what is truly extraordinary. The more turbulent his heart is, the calmer his appearance is. Expressionless is the most relaxed state of Ryosuke, and also the most excited state. Only smiling is between the two, and it is the time when he is most vigilant. Closing his eyes, Ryosuke took a deep breath to calm his inner excitement. Slowly exhaling the turbid air, when he opened his eyes again, the surging in Ryosuke's eyes had dissipated, and the only thing left was to face the heart of this ninja world calmly. Soji, Shinkai, it's time to go. A calm voice sounded. He slowly turned around, smiled and walked out of the canyon. Since we have come to the Valley of the End and the edge of Konoha, it means Ryosuke can finally leave the village. In 5 years, he stepped out of that small village for the first time, ready to see the charm of this ninja world. The long-awaited opportunity for actual combat has finally come. In the heart of Hinata Hiyashi, Ryosuke's status is very high, equal to or even superior to that of the family. So even though he realized that there was nothing he could teach Ryosuke, he still kept suppressing him and did not let Ryosuke try to get involved in real combat. On the one hand, of course, there is no chance, and on the other hand, he is reluctant to leave. But now, Ryosuke finally found a chance to leave the village. This time, his mission is to visit the daimyo of the Land of Fire, which is a routine for the Hyuga clan every year. However, in previous years, it was done by the people of the branch family. This year, Hyuga Hiyashi plans to take this opportunity to arrange a not-so-difficult mission for Ryosuke to leave the village, and let him expand his horizons. You can't stay in this village all the time and be a frog in the well. The Hyuga clan attaches great importance to the mission of visiting the daimyo, and the word daimyo is not deep in Ryosuke's impression. Or in other words, this kind of people are not outstanding in the plotline of Naruto, and there is almost no chance to show their faces. But that is the world of comics after all, and Ryosuke is in the real world of Naruto. Then the two are naturally different. If you want to live in this ninja world, you must never underestimate these so-called daimyo and nobles. Even if they don't have the power of ninjas, they have much more than ninjas. As for where they are more, it's the human heart. Is the population of this world large? Compared with Ryosuke's previous life, it's certainly not large. Are there many ninjas in this world? Many. After all, it is a ninja world, and there are still many ninjas with extraordinary powers. So, In terms of the overall population, are there more ninjas or more ordinary people? Without a doubt, of course there are more ordinary people. Most of the population in the ninja world is occupied by ordinary people, and only a small number of people have the talent to become ninjas. Ryosuke expected the difference in numbers between ordinary people and ninjas. But as for the people in power in this ninja world, those daimyo and nobles who are just ordinary people are the ones who really have real power, which surprised Ryosuke. Originally, he thought that with the power of ninjas, the daimyo and nobles of various countries should be more like puppets, helping the ninjas to manage the ninja world and help them control the ordinary people. But what surprised Ryosuke was that the daimyo and nobles have always been the actual rulers of various countries, and they control the lifeline of their own countries. The lifeblood of a country is affected by many aspects: economy, education, military, production, technology, and other directions are the foundation of a country and the shell of the word country, and the most important one is economy. Only when the above aspects are perfect, stable, and have sufficient economic strength can a country operate steadily. And only those who are capable of being in power can prevent the country from causing public outrage or even coups in the process of development. The ability here does not refer to military force, but management ability, which refers to excellence in cultural and ideological levels. However, these things are the framework of the fire country, not Konoha. Nowadays, the operating mode of the major countries in the ninja world is carried out in a very delicate state. Just like the fire country in Konoha, although Konoha is considered the military force of the fire country. But in fact, Konoha is also a country within the fire country, with a separate power framework and system, and is based on strength and military exploits, which is completely opposite to the management system of the fire country itself. In other words, the people in power in the land of fire, such as the daimyo and the nobles, manage the ordinary people in the land of fire. They guide them to engage in production, technology, education, businessmen, and other issues, so that they can export and import economy for the country. They talk about ideas, culture, strategy, and management. In Konoha, the people in power are the Hokage, the elders, and the consultants. They manage the ninjas of Konoha and the ninjas of the land of fire, restrain all those with extraordinary abilities, and do not make trouble for ordinary people. Moreover, in the process of restraint, Konoha will develop steadily with the support of the daimyo and the nobles of the land of fire, become the defensive force of the country, and resist the invasion of foreign forces. One outside and one inside, one civil and one military, is the stable path for the common development of the land of fire and Konoha formulated by the first generation of Hokage and the daimyo at that time. And this path is currently being emulated by other countries in the ninja world, and they are all trying to develop in this direction. Therefore, in this ninja world, the daimyo and the nobles are not puppets launched by the ninja. Although they have no power, they have wisdom. They control the hearts of ordinary people who, like them, have no talent to become ninjas, and gather this loose power into a rolling river. Isn't this the democratic system established by literati and warlords? The journey was smooth and there was no fighting incident. Ryosuke and his team arrived in Kyoto City safely. Looking at the bustling crowd coming and going, he was quite moved. On the way from Konoha to Kyoto Prefecture, he saw a lot of things, and also saw many things that could not be seen in the Hyuga clan's intelligence chain. The current situation in the land of fire can be described by the 4 words, peaceful country and peaceful people. Literati, that is, daimyo and nobles. Although they are proud of their talents and knowledge, they dare not go against the will of the people and stand on the opposite side of the masses with the power of ninjas watching them. Serving the people, considering the interests of the people, and developing and strengthening this country are the price they pay for their power and status. Because of this, after the Third Ninja World War, in just less than 10 years, the country had completely stabilized under their management and arrangements, and its national strength had reached a new level. It's ridiculous that Konoha, a village with extraordinary abilities, is already corrupt and in constant conflict. On the contrary, the fire country, under the system where ordinary people manage ordinary people, has developed so rapidly and peacefully. Ryosuke casually put his hands behind his back, secretly judging everything in front of him, with a little adult's momentum. However, his inner self is not small. The 3 of them walked and stopped along the way, admiring the prosperity of this largest city. Soon, they stopped at the city gate. Kyoto City is the central city of the Fire Country. It covers a large area and is divided into the inner city and the outer city. Although Ryosuke and his friends entered Kyoto City just now, they were in the outer city. And the inner city is only accessible to some people, and they need some qualifications, such as identity. We are ninjas from the Hyuga clan. The soldiers guarding the gate of the inner city just took a step forward, and Soji, who had been behind Ryosuke, stepped forward and opened his Byakugan to show their identities. So you are ninjas from the Hyuga clan, please come in. The sergeant who blocked the road said very respectfully, and quickly signaled his men to make way. There was no need to verify their identities. The Byakugan that Hyuga Soji opened when he spoke was the best proof of entry into the city. Ryosuke did not speak at all, and nodded to the sergeant very kindly. After saying hello, he took the two into the city. The situation in the inner city is still very different from that in the outer city. Because of the soldiers blocking the road, there were no street vendors. The only ones who could do business in the inner city were some large-scale merchant families in the Fire Country. These families, however, would not sell directly on the street like ordinary small vendors, but all had their own stores. So, when Ryosuke looked at the entrance of the city, he had only two comments in his heart. Clean and rigorous. Because there were no small vendors, there were no many pedestrians wandering and crowded. Although the whole street seemed empty and lacked the atmosphere of fireworks, it was not dead. Nobles, government officials who managed major institutions in the Fire Country, ninjas hired from Konoha, and the servants and carriages of these famous scholars were all figures that were often seen on the streets of the inner city. In general, it was much quieter. Are you all ninjas from the Hyuga clan? Originally, Ryosuke planned to stroll around the inner city first to understand the overall environment and roots of this place and check it out. But before he and Soji could take a few more steps, a carriage stopped in front of them. An elegant middle-aged man dressed in a kimono robe and dressed like a scholar got off the carriage and revealed the identities of Ryosuke and the others as soon as he opened his mouth. However, given the special appearance of the Hyuga clan, this is not surprising. Who are you? Soji stepped forward again and asked in front of Ryosuke. I am the retainer of the daimyo, Nagahirano. The elegant middle-aged man first introduced himself briefly, and then said kindly, the daimyo is waiting for you three at the mansion. While speaking, his eyes unconsciously drifted behind Hyuga Soji and put on Ryosuke. As a large family, the Hyuga clan wants to provide for the entire family economy. In addition to the clan members doing tasks in the village, there must be some additional sources of funds. Families like Ino Shikacho and Uchiha also have other businesses in the Land of Fire to earn funds to maintain the operation of the family. Most of the Hyuga clan's business is provided by the nobles of the Fire Nation. The magnificent and vast daimyo's mansion was like the magnificent buildings of ancient China that Ryosuke had seen in his previous life. This architectural style is different from the low-rise bungalows commonly seen in the ninja world, and it is even taller and more magnificent than the Hokage office building in Konoha village. Following Naganodera's lead, Ryosuke and his companions entered the tall building. The entire daimyo's mansion looked very solemn, and all the servants moved quietly, fearing that they would make too much noise and disturb the daimyo and a group of nobles who worked here. Under the respectful greetings of many retainers and servants, Ryosuke and his companions walked up the stairs to the tall building. Noticing the gazes of the three people, Nagano Taira, who was leading the way, stopped, turned around and asked with a chuckle, "Three ninjas, which one is stronger, this daimyo's mansion or Konoha's Hokage building?" Somewhat surprised by his words, Ryosuke glanced at him casually. The daimyo's mansion is of course magnificent and magnificent. Compared to this, our Konoha's Hokage building is like a thatched hut, unsightly. Thank you, thank you. Nagano Taira nodded with satisfaction, but tried to pretend to be very humble. Unfortunately, this gesture with completely inadequate facial expression management was full of mistakes in Ryosuke's eyes. You are too modest, Mr. Nagano. He continued with a smile. After all, we ninjas live a life of licking blood on the tip of a knife and defending the country. We don't have time to do these leisurely and elegant fine work. Besides, we are all rough people and can't appreciate it. How could you? Nagano Taira nodded happily and was about to continue to be modest. But his mind turned and he suddenly felt that there was something wrong with Ryosuke's words. Looking at his half-smile, These words sounded a little harsh to his ears. The life of the daimyo is really luxurious. Seeing that Naganohira stopped talking, Ryosuke continued to speak, casually turning his eyes to the lamps hanging on the nearby walls and ceilings, beautiful women and delicious food, bright lights all over the building. On this way, there are countless cooks and servants. I don't know if the daily expenses of this daimyo's mansion can be compared with the monthly expenses of my Hyuga clan. Ahem, the daimyo is usually very simple. Today, it is mainly to welcome the arrival of the 3 adults. Naganohira coughed dryly, and after explaining, he did not dare to speak again. 3 ninja adults, please wait here for a while, I will go and invite the adults to come. Leading Ryosuke and others to one of the luxuriously and elegantly decorated rooms, Naganohira explained and hurriedly left the room, fearing that Ryosuke would say something harsh again. This daimyo really knows how to enjoy himself. After Naganohira left, Soji, who had been silent since entering the daimyo's mansion, spoke softly, but soon covered his mouth again. Because the entire daimyo mansion was very quiet, even the sound changed in this environment, appearing very ethereal and loud. Ningxian incense has the effect of calming the mind and concentrating the spirit. It requires a variety of precious medicinal materials that are priceless to be refined. Sniffing the fragrance in the air, Shinkai explained to Ryosuke, I just noticed along the way, and almost every room has the smell of burning incense. I estimate that the incense consumption of this daimyo mansion in one day is enough for the expenses of our entire Hyuga clan for one day. Ryosuke chuckled and said nothing. No matter how extravagant it is, it can't bring any waves to his heart. After he succeeded in his career in his previous life, he also enjoyed it. But compared to practice and self-improvement, what is all this? It's just some self-consolation for ordinary people. Oh, maybe there are still some things here that can make Ryosuke feel a little bit of waves. Coming to the window, he opened the window casually. The whistling wind sounded, and a slight chill came towards him. But what stirred up Ryosuke's heart was not the cool wind, but everything in front of him. Most of the buildings in the ninja world are bungalows, and there are only a few high-rise buildings like the daimyo mansion. This also makes the daimyo mansion stand out among the many bungalows in the Land of Fire, and it is extremely eye-catching. On the other hand, in this case where there is no shelter to block the view, standing on the daimyo castle, you can see all the territories in all directions. Especially Ryosuke has white eyes, and his vision is far superior to that of ordinary people, so this sense of looking down on the world is even more obvious. The smile on his face slowly converged and turned into calmness. The people coming and going on the street, the shouting and greetings of the vendors, the carriage drivers driving the carriages, the wheels sliding on the road, making clanging sounds, all these things were seen by Ryosuke. Although his perception range is not so wide, he can't hear those sounds. But when he saw the scene, his mind automatically recalled what he saw, heard, felt when he entered the city just now. This feeling was very familiar, as if he had returned to the past, to that day. The 3 of the Hyuga family, I've been waiting for a long time. At this moment, a deep voice sounded from the door. Retracting his downward gaze, Ryosuke looked back. In front of Naganohira, a sturdy, tall and burly man nodded to them kindly, and his main gaze was of course on Ryosuke. Are you the new head of the Hyuga branch of this generation, Hyuga Neji? Welcome to your arrival. He asked in a very gentle tone. But in the gentleness, Ryosuke heard a hint of arrogance. Compared with the same attitude, this daimyo naturally put himself in a higher position, after all, the status is different. Sorry, Tokugawa daimyo, I am Hyuga Ryosuke of the Hyuga clan, not Hyuga Neji. Ryosuke chuckled and took a few steps forward to come in front of him. Royal clan. The originally gentle Tokugawa daimyo looked a little surprised. In previous years, people from the Hyuga branch came to him to discuss some business matters. But I didn't expect that this year, it was someone from the main family. Tokugawa daimyo hesitated. Yes. Is there anything that needs to be changed in the agreement between the Hyuga clan and us? After knowing Ryosuke's identity, his tone changed. If it was a member of the Hyuga clan, then the attitudes of both parties would be almost the same. Although in a sense, he and the Hokage of Konoha are people of the same class, and even if the Hokage wants to change someone, he needs to report to him. But in fact, his actual status as a daimyo is far inferior to that of the Hokage. Even for big clans like Hyuga and Uchiha, it can only be said that he is barely comparable. Military force is still the main theme of this world. Although these people are proud of their talents and act very arrogant, in fact, everyone knows in their hearts that this is only when ordinary people stick together, they can enjoy a happy life in peace. If you really show your displeasure to these ninjas, it will be a very dangerous thing. After hearing that Ryosuke was a member of the Hyuga clan, Tokugawa Shigemo changed not only his tone and gesture, but also his mood. Don't stand for now, sit down. Although Tokugawa Shigemo was in a bad mood, he was much better at pretending than Nagano Taira. While motioning Ryosuke and the others to sit down, he looked at Nagano Taira next to him with a cold face. Mr. Ryosuke came all the way to Kyoto City, and you let them stand like this. Why don't you prepare tea and snacks, and call someone to play music next to you? Music is not necessary, I'm still young. After Ryosuke sat down with a chuckle, he waved his hand. As for snacks and tea, I'm still looking forward to it, after all, they are made by famous chefs. Tokugawa Shigemo didn't force the arrangement, but motioned Nagano Taira to go quickly, and then suggested, Mr. Ryosuke, please stay at the daimyo's mansion tonight. I will hold a banquet tonight, so that the surrounding nobles can also come to see the style of the Hyuga clan. Ryosuke did not refuse, and nodded. Your Highness Tokugawa is willing to introduce more people to me, then we will respectfully obey your order. Very good, very good. It just so happens that this period of time is the time for the heads of various villages and towns to come to report their work, and Mr. Ryosuke can also meet them. Tokugawa Shigemo nodded with a fake smile, looking very satisfied. Then, he asked about the physical condition of Hyuga Hiyashi and talked about some family matters. From time to time, he would mix some tests about the internal situation of the Hyuga clan into the topic. In this way, he was polite and tested at the same time. Although Ryosuke was a young child, Tokugawa Shigemo did not mean to despise him at all. Children from a ninja family cannot be measured by age. After all, they were a group of ruthless people who dared to fight on the battlefield at a young age. Ryosuke always maintained a calm attitude, but did not take the initiative to control the rhythm of the conversation. He answered whatever Tokugawa Shigemo asked. Of course, Ryosuke always said some vague words about some important matters in the clan, which made people confused. And Tokugawa Shigemo's words always had the meaning of testing whether the purpose of their visit this time was the same as in previous years. But every time Ryosuke wanted to answer directly, he quickly avoided it, as if he was unwilling to put the problem on the surface, lest it be irreversible. Since Tokugawa Shigemo was not in a hurry, Ryosuke was even less anxious. He seemed respectful, but actually answered his questions casually. And Soji and Shinkai stood behind him, straightened their backs, holding plates to eat to replenish their energy. They kept going back and forth until the sun was about to set. Tokugawa Shigemo finally couldn't bear Ryosuke's flawless answer. He laughed and planned to ask directly, although Ryosuke is young, he is quite knowledgeable. Chatting with you, I almost forgot that you are still a child. As he spoke, he laughed heartily. Ryosuke sat opposite him, and he didn't show any modesty, just smiled and accompanied him. We've been talking for so long that I almost forgot the business. I wonder if Ryosuke came here on behalf of the Hyuga clan this time. Is there anything you want to change about the rules that we have set with us in the past? Tokugawa Shigemo finally asked about the purpose of Ryosuke's coming here on behalf of the Hyuga clan this time. He half closed his eyes, and although the gentle smile on his face did not change, there was no smile in his eyes. Tokugawa Daimyo has misunderstood. Although I am here to see you this time, the rules remain unchanged. Facing the hesitation of the Fire Country Daimyo, Tokugawa Shigemo, Ryosuke chuckled and explained, our clan is still very satisfied with this matter and attaches great importance to it, especially since there has been a lot of fresh blood injected into the clan recently and the expenses have become particularly huge. So we attach more importance to cooperation with the nobles in the country. His words were sincere and genuine. But the meaning of his words made Tokugawa Shigemo, who was sitting opposite him, feel depressed. With just a few words, he understood what Ryosuke meant. The clan's expenses are higher than before, doesn't that mean they are going to raise the price? Just now, He didn't dare to ask directly because he was afraid of this situation. Once the arrow is shot, there is no turning back. If he doesn't respond to Ryosuke's almost explicit answer, it will inevitably make the Hyuga clan lose face. How is it, Lord Tokugawa? Ryosuke looked at the silent Tokugawa Shigemo. In the past, our clan offered you a price 5% less than the amount of money issued by the village, but the number of tasks you gave was not very large. In the past, our clan had low expenses and few tasks, but we could get by with a tight belt. But now, life is not easy. This phenomenon of taking private work is not uncommon in major countries and ninja villages. If you put aside the village as an intermediary and take the task directly from the client, you can get more commission money. But only a well-known family like the Hyuga clan has such an opportunity. Most small families, based on their ability and reputation, can only honestly rely on the reputation of the village to accept tasks, but once there is an opportunity, many people do not mind this behavior. However, except for the Hyuga clan and the Uchiha clan, the other clans in the village have been rapidly decreasing in recent years. The reason is that the village is using some systems to prevent such things from happening. In Konoha village, those families that have been completely assimilated by the will of fire and become true members of the village will not do such things as taking private jobs and harming the interests of the village. In order for each family to continue to develop, Konoha has given them some suitable resources. For example, the Akamichi clan runs a barbecue restaurant. Under some channel arrangements in Konoha, the barbecue restaurant run by their clan is very famous throughout the Fire Country, forming a complete industrial chain and brand. This way of making money is both formal and legal, allowing many small families who originally had no ability to see the benefits, and also move closer to the will of fire and actively assimilate with the village. This has also led to the increasingly awkward status of relatively independent families such as Hyuga and Uchiha in the village. In fact, the Uchiha clan has also sent people to give their opinions on this matter. Tokugawa Shigemo looked embarrassed, but his heart was unusually calm. Since just now, when he learned about Ryosuke's royal family identity, he has been stalling for time, while testing the purpose and thinking about any excuses. This afternoon of free chat was not really spent on family matters. The ninja world is so chaotic, and sometimes we have to go abroad for business trips, so it's inevitable to ask for some ninja protection. As he explained, he shook his head regretfully, but you know, Master Ryosuke, we only have so many people, and there are only so many tasks that can be entrusted every year. Occasionally, if there are some sudden tasks, I will give them to your Hyuga clan first. But recently, the Uchiha clan also came to give opinions, saying that the number of tasks is not enough, and their clan is not making ends meet, and they want to raise the price, but how is this possible? If it really reaches that price, then we might as well go to Konoha to officially announce the commission. Uchiha. When Ryosuke heard that Tokugawa Shigemo was going to use Uchiha to prevaricate this negotiation, he felt very strange. Others may not know, but he knows very well. Nowadays, the relationship between Uchiha and the village is incompatible. Since the Nine-Tailed Rebellion, the high-level officials have been vigilant against Uchiha again and again, and now it has reached the extreme. If he, this little butterfly, had not fluttered his wings and changed something, this competitor might be gone in less than half a year. No one could have guessed that the Uchiha, a powerful blood boundary family that has maintained a long-lasting prosperity since the Warring States period, would be almost exterminated, and only a few kittens were left to fight among themselves. However, Ryosuke has no plans to intervene too much in this matter for the time being. After all, there is still a long time. The important thing now is to fight with the daimyo for their share of the expansion of interests. Looking at Tokugawa Shigemo, who had a bitter face and said that the country had no money, Ryosuke asked softly, Your Highness Tokugawa, I wonder if the Hidden Cloud village visited you when it was on a diplomatic mission to the Land of Fire some time ago. The Hidden Cloud village. Tokugawa Shigemo, who was still pretending, was stunned for a moment and nodded. I did come here, and brought some gifts from the daimyo of the Land of Thunder. He didn't quite understand what Ryosuke meant by this. Gift. That's quite elegant. Ryosuke smiled and looked at Tokugawa Shigemo. Actually, they also prepared a gift for our Konoha village, planning to raid our Hyuga clan at night to kidnap people and take away our bloodline for research, but we caught them red-handed. Night raid. Tokugawa Shigemo's bitter face suddenly became ugly, and his stern black face was different from before. It was definitely from the heart, not pretended. Because he had not heard from Sarutobi Hiruzen about this matter. The Hokage of Konoha and the daimyo of the Land of Fire are two different power institutions. In most cases, they benefit each other and do not interfere in small matters. Only when they have agreed on major matters internally will they inform each other. And for matters like this involving war, Sarutobi Hiruzen should report to him, but the actual situation is that this old guy did not inform him. Could it be that this old guy is old and confused, and really thinks that if a fight breaks out, ordinary people like them don't need to prepare in advance? The anger in Tokugawa Shigemo's heart rushed straight to his forehead. But things still need to be asked clearly. He forced himself to calm down and asked solemnly about the war. Is it going to war again? This kind of thing happened, and he was caught on the spot. It must be going to fight again. He was very angry. It has only been a short time since the situation in the country was finally stabilized by them, and the war is going to start again. Why can't this group of ninjas be quiet? The third Hokage asked us, the Hyuga clan, not to start a war, and hoped to resolve this peacefully. Smiling, he picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. As a condition, we will strive for some benefits as compensation for the Hyuga clan. At present, the village's advisory elders are negotiating the specific compensation with the Hidden Cloud village. And, peacefully resolved, Tokugawa Shigemo was stunned again, and then he was happy. Sarutobi is quite reasonable this time. He knows that the national strength of the Fire Country can no longer support the continuation of the war. He thought that this group of barbaric ninjas would start a war again after being provoked casually. But now it seems okay. Sarutobi Hiruzen can still distinguish the situation. But the old guy is old after all. If someone broke into the village and caused damage in the past, he would definitely send troops to fight back. Just one sentence, Tokugawa Shigemo heard too much. Including the changes in the thoughts and goals of the third Hokage with age. Do you understand the situation? Ryosuke stared at him. So the daimyo also thinks that others have come to bully us, and we still take the initiative to seek a peaceful solution. Is this a manifestation of understanding the situation? The tone was not gentle at the right time. The address also changed. Tokugawa Shigemo recovered from the joy and remembered that the representative of the biggest victim in this incident was still in front of him. Ahem, I don't think so. I also think this is too aggrieved. He coughed lightly and simply expressed his opinion. Does Tokugawa think so too? Your thoughts coincide with those of most people in our Hyuga clan. When Ryosuke heard this, he stood up with a snap. You are so right, this is too aggrieved. Perhaps, we should hurry back now and persuade the third generation to withdraw this self-humiliating idea, mobilize troops and assemble the ninja army, and start. No, Ryosuke, don't get excited. His heart, which had just calmed down, suddenly rose again. Tokugawa Shigemo quickly stood up and came to Hyuga Ryosuke and whispered to comfort him. Although I feel aggrieved, you also know that our Fire Country's current national strength really can't support another war. But they, the Thunder Country, their Cloud Village, are bullying our Fire Country and our Konoha. Ryosuke stretched out his palm and excitedly shook Tokugawa Shigemo's hand that was about to pat his shoulder. Our Fire Country has never retreated a step. Even if we are not as strong as we were in the past, I think our spirit cannot lose. From Konoha to Kyoto City, all the way here, what I have seen and heard, all the people are proud to be the citizens of this country, but now the enemy country is so aggressive, do we have to hold back our anger and even take the initiative to negotiate? Behind Ryosuke, Soji and Shinkai, who were still eating, were stunned. It was the first time they saw the gentle and smiling Master Ryosuke so excited. But the words in his words really ignited the fire in their hearts. Soji slammed the snack in his hand and threw it on the expensive carpet. Yes. Master Ryosuke, the Hidden Cloud village is bullying too much. Let's go back to the village now and let the clan leader come out to persuade the Hokage to withdraw the previous decision. Think about it carefully. The group of ninjas from the Hidden Cloud village are coming to kidnap the eldest daughter of their Hyuga clan, that is the main family. Even if it is a young child, it represents the word Hyuga. There have been many dissatisfied voices in the clan for such things. If the support of the daimyo can be obtained this time, perhaps the third Hokage can really change his decision. No, 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 you all calm down. Tokugawa Shigemo looked at the dirty carpet, and then looked at the three people in front of him who were extremely excited. He wished that time could go back so that he could withdraw the words that seemed to be standing in line just now. And I heard that the consultant who went to Kumogakure to discuss compensation didn't seem to get a good result. They kept delaying and didn't give a definite answer. But at this time, Ryosuke spoke again. It's ridiculous that our Hyuga family is so big, everyone is working hard to defend the country, but now they are treated unfairly. Some people in our family can't even afford to eat. You know, Lord Tokugawa. I can't even afford to eat. As he spoke, he pulled Tokugawa Shigemo's hand. The emotional expression tension and the line skills made Tokugawa Shigemo stunned. Although he felt something was wrong, he couldn't tell what was wrong for a while. Master Ryosuke, I really believed it a few days ago. The reason you came to meet with the daimyo this time was that the clan leader wanted to persuade the third generation to withdraw his previous decision and start with the daimyo. It was already noon on the fifth day when Ryosuke and the other two left Kyoto City. As soon as they walked out of the city gate, Hyuga Soji, who was standing behind him, couldn't wait to speak. And next to Soji, Hyuga Shinkai also nodded, indicating that she also believed in his words yesterday. A few days ago, Ryosuke excitedly gave a theory about national spirit and dignity to Tokugawa Shigemo in the daimyo's mansion. His strong ability to incite directly made Tokugawa Shigemo sign some treaties that would help the development of their Hyuga clan. For example, in the next few years, in terms of private work, the amount of money given when hiring will be appropriately increased. For another example, give their Hyuga clan a position as a guardian ninja. Regarding these concessions of interests, Tokugawa Shigemo clearly stated that this was the Fire Country's way of compensating their Hyuga clan for their sacrifice this time. Even if he realized that this might be Ryosuke's trick, he didn't want to bet on this possibility. This group of ninjas had done these things before, knowing that they couldn't do it. Spending money to avoid disasters, as long as they can maintain the current stable situation and let them enjoy the good life happily, giving up a piece of the cake is nothing. If it were ordinary officials, this matter would give them a way out. Under the pressure of the situation and force, they would agree without hesitation. After all, these literati are good at saving face. Ryosuke was no longer as excited as when he met Tokugawa Shigashige, and his mood was very calm. But a person in power like Tokugawa Dono, although he grew up under the influence and teaching of literati and scholars, he has been holding supreme power for a long time, so he is inevitably tainted with the greed of businessmen. No ordinary method can make him willingly give up his own interests, so I can only use the other party's lack of intelligence to cause him some psychological pressure. Although it is a physical family, the Hyuga clan can also be regarded as a powerful perception family because of its outstanding ability. For these reasons, the intelligence chain within their clan is very complete. Many times, as soon as the Hokage's office makes a decision, the Hyuga clan can learn about the situation at the first time. Therefore, Ryosuke, a member of the clan, can grasp a lot of information and can access the top intelligence and information of the Land of Fire and Konoha. For example, Sarutobi Hiruzen has not yet informed Tokugawa Shigemo of this matter. It seems that because of the issue of face, the Konoha high-level officials did not intend to inform the high-level officials of the Land of Fire. They planned to make this matter a small matter, and after the corresponding compensation was in place, Konoha and Kumogakure would sign a confidentiality agreement to prevent the matter from being leaked. And this gave Ryosuke an opportunity. The plan to gain more benefits from the daimyo's mansion was made by him and Hyuga Hiyashi together. Although they avoided this matter in advance under Ryosuke's foreknowledge, they had already anticipated the attitude of the village, and they were not so depressed in their hearts and emotions. But since the village planned to fight for their interests, why not just take one more? In this way, Ryosuke had this opportunity to go out of the village to experience and see the ninja world. Because only the royal family can represent Hyuga, so he just happened to complete this task. But it's a pity that on the way here, because the itinerary was relatively secretive, he didn't encounter any emergencies, and there was no practical opportunity for him to accumulate experience. But the way back is different. Master Ryosuke, the life of the daimyo is so enjoyable, why don't we stay a few more days? As soon as he left the scope of Kyoto City, Soji asked with some doubts. They stayed in Kyoto City for a total of 5 days. Counting the journey, it was less than half a month. There was still a long time before Hyuga Hiyashi gave them a month of mission time. After entering the city, except for the first day to discuss practical issues, the second and third days, they were all entertained by the daimyo and many nobles, and lived a luxurious and beautiful life with them comfortably. To be honest, this kind of decadent life is still easy to sink into. At least these days, Soji enjoyed the feeling of being served from the moment he woke up in the morning until he closed his eyes and fell asleep at night. I originally planned to leave the next day, but in order to have more fun on our way back, I delayed a few more days. Ryosuke chuckled and turned his head. Looking at Soji's appearance, he knew that this guy enjoyed the noble life very much. But Ryosuke didn't want to care. Everyone has their own goals and choices. Hyuga Soji's goal is to live this kind of decadent and luxurious life, which is not bad. Not to mention that this kind of life is really beautiful. After experiencing these days, Ryosuke retracted his thoughts. No matter how extravagant and decadent this world is, it is not as comfortable as the previous life. This relatively feudal lord life is still very beautiful, especially when standing at the top. The degree of happiness is completely comparable to the era of entertainment information explosion in the previous life. However, I still said that compared to practice, this kind of thing really can't give Ryosuke too much satisfaction. Fun. Soji and Shinkai obviously caught the key points in Ryosuke's words, and their relaxed expressions suddenly became alert. The chakra in the body flowed faster, sensing and confirming the situation around. It seems that the enjoyment of the past few days has not made you forget that you are a ninja. Ryosuke turned around with a smile and continued to walk forward along the predetermined route. Don't worry, no trace of the enemy has been found yet. But the road ahead is not peaceful. I hope you too can be vigilant. If you really want to continue enjoying yourself, you should go back to the village first. Have you received any news, Master Ryosuke? Although Shinkai is a woman, she is calmer and more mature than Soji, and can always catch some small details. No news, just my guess. Ryosuke shook his head. Do you remember that day? His Highness Tokugawa said that in addition to us, has any other family mentioned the matter of increasing the mission reward? You mean, the Uchiha clan? Shinkai frowned. It's just a guess, but there is a high probability that they will attack us. Ryosuke's voice was as usual, calm and gentle, without any worries about this matter. After all, he had thought about this matter early. On this trip, his first mission was to negotiate with Tokugawa Shigashige and use the Cloud Village incident to gain benefits, which was very important for the family. The second thing was his actual combat mission, which was very important to him personally. Chapter 31. The climate of the Land of Fire is similar to the country where Ryosuke lived in his previous life. And because there are not many real estate owners to develop, green forests occupy 50% of the land area of the Land of Fire, which also provides a good fighting environment for the battles between ninjas. In the dark and deep dense forest that is almost not exposed to sunlight, 3 figures quickly passed between the trees, like a group of agile wild cats. The 3 Hyuga guys just left Orange Town yesterday. Judging from the route, the next target should be Nagano Temple. Pay more attention along the way to avoid missing those 3 guys. The leader of the 3 people said while jumping flexibly between the branches. The clan leader said that this matter is very important. Before these 3 people return to the village, they must be killed and the relevant contract scrolls must be returned to Kyoto to meet the daimyo and mess up what they have agreed on. The voice he spoke was very indifferent and subtle, but it was clearly heard by his companions beside him. But this doesn't seem to be a mission issued by the clan leader, but... Faced with this cold voice, one of his 2 companions was about to speak. But before he could finish his words, he was interrupted. I said it was the clan leader who said it, that's what the clan leader said. The man who spoke at the beginning sternly rebuked his companion. The relationship between our clan and the village has become increasingly severe. Clan leader Fugaku is indecisive and has always been unwilling to give orders, but those of us in charge have to accumulate strength in advance to share his worries. I believe that the day of the coup and the day when we take over Konoha village are not far away. This time, the content we have won from the daimyo can increase our chances of success. We must do it perfectly. Do you hear me? Yes. There was no more hesitation, and the companions around him answered in unison. Without much communication, they hurried on their way while carefully exploring the situation in the forest. Make sure no traces are left or missed. But what they didn't know was that their whereabouts had already been clearly seen by the three people, Ryosuke and others, who were lying on the cliffs and looking down from a high position, in a farther place outside the dense forest. Even the content of the conversation was detected by Shinkei's perception ninjutsu. The three people were wearing masks and had no forehead protectors to show their bodies, but there was no doubt that the three of them were ninjas of the Uchiha clan. And judging from the way they acted, they were at least at the level of Chunin. Whether they were talking or exploring along the way, they did not slow down the flow of chakra in their bodies. The chakra in their bodies was very stable during the whole movement process, which could only be achieved by having a deep attainment in chakra control. Preliminary judgment is that there may be 2 Chunins and 1 Jonin, which is the highest evaluation. Based on the situation detected by the Byakugan, Shinkai calmly analyzed the strength of the 3 people, but it may also be 3 Chunins. The specific situation requires actual fighting to judge. After speaking, she turned her head and looked at Ryosuke, waiting for his answer. Ryosuke did not speak immediately, but continued to silently observe the 3 people who were approaching this side in the dense forest with his eyes. It was not easy to leave the village for a mission. If nothing happened, wouldn't it become a spring outing? Besides, it was not his style to sharpen the sword before the battle. Although he wanted to live a peaceful and quiet life to improve his strength, fighting was an indispensable element in this world. Blindly escaping was not wise, but a manifestation of cowardice. Blindly practicing and researching would only make people have power but not know how to use it best to fight the enemy. Therefore, before facing the real difficult-to-solve danger, accumulating practical experience through some small problems is Ryosuke's current idea. He couldn't hide all the time, practice boringly, and then face those difficult-to-face strong enemies in the plot. This was unrealistic. As for the attack of Uchiha, it was a possibility that Ryosuke expected. Hyuga and Uchiha were originally competitors, so when Ryosuke heard that the Uchiha people also wanted to raise the price here to gain more benefits, he expected that there might be some conflicts. The news that he, a member of the Hyuga clan, was going out of the village to visit the daimyo was definitely not a simple matter. I believe that the Uchiha people will soon guess that they, the Hyuga clan, have the same plan as them. If nothing unexpected happens, they will also send people to sabotage, so Ryosuke deliberately stayed in Kyoto City for a few more days, waiting for their actions. And now, as he expected, they are here. Let's retreat and treat the Chunin as an object of training. During the ambush, there may be deviations beyond the plan. On the cliff, seeing that Ryosuke didn't speak, Soji and Shinkai looked at each other and persuaded him, although we all know that Master Ryosuke's strength has long reached the level of genin, but prepare for action. But before they finished, Ryosuke had slowly stood up and issued the order for the ambush. On his face, the gentle smile of the past had returned to calmness. Unlike the life-saving drills of Hyuga Hiyashi, strictly speaking, this was his first actual combat, and also his first encounter with a battle where he might die. Ryosuke needed to face all this in the most relaxed state. Father should have told you that during the execution of the mission, the command is mine. Ryosuke did not take action immediately. He turned his head and looked at the 2 calmly. The decision I made was based on the possibility of the greatest deviation. Even if 2 of them appeared among the senior ninjas, and both of them opened the 3 Magatama Sharingan, we can handle it. Confidence is a crucial point in a battle. In the words of Soji and Shinkai, Ryosuke had already felt the timidity and retreat of the 2. This was a very bad emotion, and he needed to correct it. Facing the 2 people's puzzled eyes, he continued, you 2 should pay attention. Although the movements of these 3 Uchiha are careful, they reveal murderous intentions. They are careful because they are afraid that we will detect their whereabouts and give us the possibility of escape, rather than being cautious about this attack. Speaking of this, Ryosuke paused, waiting for the 2 of them to observe, and then continued, I believe that before they came here, they have fully understood the strength of the 2 of you, and the strength of me, the burden. They are very confident about this mission and don't think there will be any mistakes in this mission. Even, they didn't think that we would try to ambush and counterattack after noticing their whereabouts. They positioned themselves as hunters, and they didn't have the slightest idea of becoming prey. We can completely get rid of a Chunin or a Jonin before they react and open their Sharingan. The situation of the Uchiha clan and the village is very awkward now. It can be said that since the Nine Tails Rebellion, the existing contradictions have been repeatedly expanded, and now it has become irreversible. Many high-level officials in the village believe that the Nine Tails riot was a trick played by the Uchiha clan behind the scenes. After all, most people saw how the Nine Tails was controlled. Therefore, nowadays, some relatively outstanding ninjas of the Uchiha clan are basically watched by the village more or less. And ninjas like the level of Jonin are even more so. Generally, as long as they leave the clan, there will be people from the Anbu or the route following them in secret. It is also because of this that Ryosuke is more assured to decide on this actual battle. He believes that the Uchiha people will not be so cautious and spare so many people to deal with a kid like him who has not even graduated from the ninja school. However, out of caution, Ryosuke still took Soji and Shinkai to hide all the way, wanting to actually confirm the strength of the Uchiha people before making plans. Now, after confirming the number of attackers and their approximate strength, he planned to take action. There is no trace at all. Could they have already reached Nagano Temple? In the dense forest, the three Uchiha people were very annoyed because they could not find any trace of Ryosuke and his companions no matter how hard they searched. They temporarily slowed down their rush and walked instead. It is also tiring to keep chakra running for a long time and attach it to the body to improve mobility. Before they feel a little tired, they will stop like this, resting while walking, to ensure that they can attack directly in the best sneak attack state as soon as they see the target. Logically, they should take this route. Another person spoke impatiently. Are they taking the official road? As dignified ninjas, they will not really take the road where ordinary people seek shelter, right? Moving slowly, they did not have too many hidden conversations now. They had just checked the area, and there was no trace left, as if the three people had evaporated from the face of the earth. If they were traveling normally, they would not leave no trace like them, unless they did not take this road. It's unlikely. With the conspicuous appearance of the Hyuga clan, if they took the official road, they would definitely attract attention. The one with more say among the three spoke coldly, denying this speculation, and from the whereabouts of the previous towns, they all walked through the wild, so they would not turn to the official road just when we were about to attack. Besides, didn't we find their footprints entering the forest just now? But one of them just opened his mouth and was about to discuss something. Suddenly, by the trees near him, Ryosuke and the other two who had been waiting for a long time attacked the ninja who had spoken from three directions. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sound of breaking through the air sounded like thunder in the silent dense forest. Be careful. At the moment when the three exposed their bodies, the leader who was suspected to have the strength of a Jonin among the three Uchiha reacted immediately. While shouting to remind his companions, he threw out his shuriken neatly, trying to stop their actions. But unfortunately, for this moment of surprise attack, Ryosuke and the other two, who had been ambushing for a long time and made a careful plan, were faster than him. Judging from the amount of chakra and the level of control, the Uchiha who was attacked should be the weakest among the three. Before he could react, they had come to his side. One on the left and one on the right, Soji and Shinkai swung a palm from both sides, cutting off the chakra flowing in his body. In Ryosuke's hand, the sharp kunai with a cold light had cut his neck. Blood gushed out from the wound like a spring, and a fresh life passed away. This Uchiha may not even figure out who the three people are, and he has lost his voice. At this time, the shuriken swung by the suspected Uchiha Jonin arrived late, and was easily knocked down by Soji with a kunai. The remaining Uchiha Chunin among the three instinctively retreated to join the Jonin. The whole process lasted less than a minute, and Ryosuke and the other two had already distanced themselves from the remaining two Uchiha, and watched their movements vigilantly. Waste. Facing the limp body of his dead companion, the suspected Jonin cursed in a low voice, and stood together with the remaining Chunin, also on guard against Ryosuke and the others. How is it? After the sneak attack succeeded and distanced themselves from the Uchiha, Shinkai asked in a low voice. It's okay, continue. With a calm look in his eyes, Ryosuke briefly replied, and the three began to move again, not intending to give the remaining two Uchiha a chance to speak. According to the original plan, they did not have this distance link. Instead, after succeeding, he directly attacked the remaining Chunin, leaving the suspected Jonin to the end. But because it was the first time for Ryosuke to kill someone, in order to avoid emotional reactions affecting the battle, Soji suggested taking some time to rest. Ryosuke also agreed to his proposal. But what he himself did not expect was that although it was the first time, his movements were neat and decisive during the action, and the time he wiped the neck was smooth and without any hesitation. During the whole process, he did not have any uncomfortable physical reactions or resistance. The death of such a life did not bring any burden to his heart. Since you want to kill, you must be prepared to be killed. Ryosuke did not think this was bad, it was indifferent and cold-blooded. Before he finished speaking, Ryosuke and the other two had already rushed up and wanted to get close to them. Knowing clearly how powerful the physical skills of the Hyuga clan were, the remaining two Uchiha did not hesitate at all and fled directly, intending to find an opportunity to attack after keeping a distance. The sudden sneak attack has caused them to lose a companion and also made them feel that their lives are threatened. Next, they will not look down on the three people. Sharingan is open. The Byakugan clearly noticed the two people who escaped in an instant, and the chakra flow in the body gathered in the eye sockets, and Shinkai reminded them. However, for the next battle, the three of them are confident that they can keep them. The worst plan was that there were two Jonin among the three Uchiha. But at present, it seems that only one is suspected, and the remaining one is obviously only the strength of a Chunin. His combat experience is insufficient, and he is not even as good as Soji and Shinkai. In the previous raid, the remaining Uchiha could only retreat instinctively due to his experience and psychological quality, and could not make a calm judgment on the battle situation. Be careful not to look into their eyes. Their Sharingan is at what stage? This is our only blind spot. Ryosuke also reminded the two people beside him, the Uchiha clan is a powerful bloodline family like us. When the Sharingan is activated, its strength far exceeds that of ninjas of the same level. In the dense forest, the identities of hunter and prey have been alternating. The Uchiha, who was suddenly attacked and lost a companion, suddenly changed from a cat to a mouse. Wearing black vests and masks to conceal their identities, the two Uchiha people were like two clever wildcats, stretching their bodies in the forest, and their speed increased again and again. They did not hesitate to consume more chakra in order to achieve faster speed and explosive power to escape from the close attack range of Ryosuke and others. They wanted to quickly distance themselves and launched a counterattack without much concealment. Both Ryosuke and Soji could see it. Fire escape, great fireball technique. Wind escape, wind-blowing willow. The Uchiha, who was suspected to be a Jonin, quickly formed a seal in his hand, and while pulling away, he suddenly turned his head and spit out a huge fireball like a boulder from Ryosuke and the other two chasing behind him. And beside him, without any prior communication. Relying on combat experience alone, the remaining Uchiha Chunin also formed a seal, and chakra flowed in his body, forming a storm under a special operation mode and spewing out of his mouth. The strong wind was like a huge wave in the ocean, sweeping the fireball to burn with a hotter temperature, and crashing towards Ryosuke and the other two. The fireball, which was originally a boulder, instantly turned into a sea of fire under the blowing of the strong wind. The high temperature mixed in the sea of fire made the air, which was already a bit sultry under the scorching sun, even hotter. Even the arrogant Uchiha was not sure to resist the close-range skills of the Hyuga clan, so they could only run away and keep their distance. Sometimes enemies and competitors know you better than you do. As a competitor, Uchiha has not fought against the Hyuga clan before, whether it is the Hyuga clan who are still studying in the ninja school, or the Hyuga who have graduated and officially become ninjas, they have fought against each other. Therefore, the two Uchiha clan members knew very well that the physical skills of the Hyuga clan combined with the horror of the Byakugan. If all factors were equal in most cases, they would be completely defeated in close combat. As long as they were able to open the Byakugan and were talented enough to master the soft fist technique, the Hyuga clan was almost invincible in close combat. Only through ninjutsu or illusion could they have a chance to defeat them. 8 trigrams empty palm. Ryosuke stopped chasing with a calm face. Beside him, Soji and Shinkai had already swung their palms one after another, and the highly concentrated chakra gushed out from the acupuncture points in their palms and blasted towards the sea of fire in front of them. Their Byakugan had already seen through the chakra flow of the two Uchiha clan members. They had already taken precautions long before they formed the seal. Boom! The nearly invisible highly concentrated chakra collided with the sea of fire in the air, making a dull and huge roar. Then, the invisible concentrated chakra was engulfed by the sea of fire. That Uchiha Jonin had a high level of attainment in the transformation of chakra properties. He only had a C-level fire ninjutsu, but he used it with power that was close to that of an A-level ninjutsu. Even under the influence of that Uchiha Chunin's wind ninjutsu, the originally limited range was expanded, making up for the shortcoming that the Great Fireball technique was difficult to hit people. There was no way to put out the sea of fire with just the 8 trigrams palm. Fortunately, these 2 palms blocked the attack of this compound ninjutsu, causing it to explode in midair. Wow! The whirring wind was heard, and sparks flew around with the strong wind, with the explosion as the center. The dense forest in dry weather was flammable. In the explosion caused by this sea of fire, the trees became fuel for the fire in the blink of an eye, and the raging fire surrounded Ryosuke and the other 2. In front of the thick smoke and raging fire, Ryosuke and the other 2 looked calm. The 2 Uchiha clan members who were temporarily trapped in the sea of fire and hidden outside the fire circle quickly moved around the range of the fire circle. Rustle. In the dense forest, countless shurikens shot out from all directions like water drops. The iron tools emitting cold light passed through the hot flames and pounced on Ryosuke and the others. But unfortunately, with the Byakugan, Ryosuke and the others had already seen the movements and whereabouts of the 2. Even if their shuriken throwing skills were very exquisite and were a unique technique of the Uchiha clan, they still could not avoid the insight of the Byakugan. You 2 don't have to worry about me. Follow the plan to chase and entangle them, force them to consume chakra, and keep a distance to avoid close combat. I will catch up as soon as possible. Ryosuke reminded softly. This is an order, he emphasized again. Based on the amount of chakra and physical fitness, it is not easy for him to keep up with the speed of this kind of battle above Chunin, not to mention that the 2 Uchiha people are willing to spend chakra to speed up. Not letting himself become a burden in this battle is the key to victory. Yes, Soji and Shinkai did not hesitate for long. After answering in unison, chakra gushed out from the acupuncture points all over their bodies, as if a protective film was wrapped around their bodies. Under the blazing fire, they jumped up and chased after the 2 black shadows in the dense forest. Although Kaden is a secret that only the clan can learn. But some Hyuga clan members with good talents can also understand some techniques from some clues. And the method used by Soji and his friends just now is a simplified version of Kaden. On the condensed chakra shield, although the hardness is not as good as the real Kaden, and it cannot bear the name of absolute defense, it can still play a role in temporarily avoiding the burning of the fire. Seeing the 4 people occasionally fighting and the figures going away, Ryosuke turned his head and looked at the raging fire around him. He also operated chakra, condensed a chakra shield on his body, and left the sea of fire. Forest fires caused by battles like this often happen in ninjutsu duels, but there is definitely no way to distract yourself during the battle to solve it. You can only come back to finish it after the battle is over. Now, after the 4 people left one after another, Ryosuke has returned from the open to the dark. The Uchiha clan's Sharingan does not have the perspective of the Hyuga clan. They can't always lock on the enemy, so Ryosuke has changed from a burden to a surprise soldier. Can play a decisive role in the battle. Even as long as he doesn't appear in the vision of the 2 Uchiha people, they will always have psychological pressure and dare not counterattack against Soji and the other 2 too presumptuously. Even if he is just a young child. Next, it's time for the real battle. Leaping alone in the forest, hanging far behind several people, Ryosuke's heart was burning. There are many factors that can affect the final result of the battle between ninjas, such as strategy, strength, environment. All the previous plans were just to make the strength of both sides relatively equal, so as to ensure that the battle is always under control. At the same time, it is also how Ryosuke tries to change himself from a paper-talking player to a general who is both civil and military in a real life and death battle. Now, the attempt of strategy has ended, and the next step is the attempt of strength. Although there is not much description about the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan in the original story, the fact that the Uchiha clan and the Hyuga clan have been in competition since the establishment of Konoha village undoubtedly shows that the blood boundary difference between the two is not large. Even in actual combat, the ability of the Byakugan is much more applicable than the Sharingan. Especially in some wars, it can play a decisive role, so the village's attitude towards the Hyuga is also much better. The inside eye can observe the changes in the environment seen in the eyes very subtle. The telescopic eye can see things in a farther range, and as long as you work hard enough, you can continuously improve the telescopic distance. The perspective eye can see through objects. In addition to seeing through the human meridians, bones, and acupuncture points, it can also penetrate most objects, such as trees, houses and other shelters. The combination of these three also means that as long as you have the blood of the Hyuga and have good talents, you have the ability to open the Byakugan and bring the abilities of these three to the extreme. Then in a battle, no matter how the enemy hides, no matter how they cast spells to try to hide, they will be exposed to the eyes of the Hyuga clan without any blind spots and locked, and there is no possibility of avoiding perception. Mastering all the whereabouts of the enemy, even when to cast ninjutsu, how much chakra is consumed in the body, everything is exposed to the vision of the Hyuga clan. How to lose in this situation? Even if you really can't beat it, you definitely have the ability to avoid it in advance. In this case, not to mention that the Byakugan has other powerful abilities to be developed. Therefore, the reason why the Hyuga clan has not been outstanding for a long time is not because the ability brought by the bloodline is not strong enough, but because there is a lack of geniuses who can develop abilities. But now, this genius has it. Fire escape, how long fire technique. The flames that roll like a real dragon spew out from the mouth of the Uchiha ninja, rushing through the dense forest, and no obstacles can stop its footsteps. The powerful destructive power of B-level ninjutsu is fully demonstrated under his precise chakra control and chakra nature changes. But unfortunately, just like the composite ninjutsu just now, this fire dragon was intercepted by the 8 trigrams palm wielded by Soji and Shinkai, and exploded in midair, bringing another sea of fire to the dense forest. As a secret technique passed down by the Hyuga for thousands of years, the 8 trigrams palm is no less powerful than the ordinary 5 elements escape technique. The power depends on the amount of concentrated chakra. In the thick fog produced by the explosion, the figures of the 2 Uchiha flashed quickly. The distance has been pulled away, and they tried to counterattack again. Illusion, Shiranui. Buy-in means powerful perception ability, which can firmly lock the enemy's location. But at the same time, the effect brought by the Byakugan also makes the Hyuga clan particularly easy to be confused by visual illusions. Soji and Shinkai, who had been chasing closely, stopped their moving figures between the branches. They did not have time to close their Byakugan at the moment when the illusion was cast. The Uchiha Chunin, who was originally ordinary and had always been protected by his companions, actually had a 3 Magatama Sharingan under the mask. When they felt the mental confusion and loss brought by the illusion, they realized this. The illusion of Shiranui was only a C-level visual illusion, which could never make the 2 experienced Chunins fall for it. Only when it was amplified by the hypnotic ability of the 3 Magatama Sharingan could it have such a powerful confusing ability. It takes time to remove the illusion. The powerful part of Uchiha's Sharingan lies in the ability to copy the enemy's actions, ninjutsu, illusions and even physical skills. But when they face the blood boundary family like Hyuga, who have learned almost all the secret techniques, the copy eye almost loses its effect. The only thing that can produce more effects in battle is the hypnotic eye. At the moment when the Uchiha Chunin cast the illusion, the Uchiha Jonin had already quickly formed a seal. Fire escape, Great Dragon Fire Technique. He used B-level ninjutsu again, and the fire dragon spit out of his mouth was more powerful than before. The first time the Great Dragon Fire technique was used was to create a sea of fire and explosion. If the 2 Hyuga realized that they would cast illusions in the fog just now and closed their Byakugan to avoid illusions, they would launch an offensive under the cover of the thick fog. But if the 2 Hyuga did not realize that they would cast illusions and were not prepared, then, the illusion and this second Great Dragon Fire technique would be the real killer moves. As for the Hyuga clan member hiding in the dark, Although it can be seen from the fight just now that the little guy is a little genius, he has the strength of a genin at a young age. But genin is a genin after all. Under such a killer move, even if he hides in the dark, he can't stop this counterattack. They think so. 8 trigrams palm. What the two Uchiha didn't expect was that, in front of them, Hyuga Soji and Shinkai, who were supposed to be confused by the illusion, acted as if nothing had happened, and once again swung out a highly concentrated chakra palm strike, interrupting the Great Dragon Fire technique again. The counterattack failed, and the two Uchiha fled again. Once again, they entered a process of one in front and one behind, one chasing and one fleeing. I will stay behind to cover the rear, and this mission is abandoned. You need to go back alive and tell the Fugaku clan leader everything here. If I can't go back, please treat my family well. Very decisively, the two Hyuga ignored the illusion they cast, and the Uchiha Jonin who had not spoken directly announced that he would give up the action. Although I don't know what happened, it's the fact. There was absolutely no problem with the illusion cast by the companions, and the two Hyuga had already entered a confused state. But there seemed to be some reason that allowed them to get rid of the illusion in a very short time. But this is impossible. With the power of the hypnotic eye enhanced, the illusion they cast was definitely not something that ordinary ninjas could easily touch. Repeated blows had already brought the proud heart of this Jonin to the bottom. He no longer considered how to successfully complete this mission, but how to return to the village alive. Captain. Hearing the captain's order, the Uchiha Chunin was a little confused. Sudden attack, running away, trying to counterattack, and running away again after the counterattack failed. Although the whole process seemed very long, it was actually less than 10 minutes. His brain was still a little buzzing. Obviously, they were the ones who came to attack and kill, and the 3 Hyuga guys were the targets. How could it suddenly become like this? They had an absolute advantage. How could the 2 Hyuga Chunins, who were carrying a burden, suddenly become like this, with them running away and the other side chasing them? You have better talent than me. You have opened the 3 Magatama Sharingan at a young age. What you lack is enough combat experience. Before the Uchiha Chunin finished speaking, the Jonin interrupted him. Leave quickly, I will hold them back. You must return alive. Your future will be more useful than mine. Captain. The emotion surged in his heart, and the fear and panic of the Uchiha Chunin seemed to be forcibly suppressed. I can't leave, I want to accompany. Under the influence of his inner emotions, all his rationality was thrown away, and he was about to say something like he didn't want to abandon his companions. But the next moment, he suddenly felt a tingling pain in his neck, and then he saw a familiar figure in front of him. That was his body. But now, this body has no head. Where is the head? Dong dong. The head, like a watermelon, splashed bright red juice while falling heavily to the ground, making a dull sound. Without the head, the body of the Uchiha Chunin continued to run forward due to the inertia of rapid movement. Even before the nerves realized that they were dead, the muscles were still exerting force. But after a few steps, the body nerves seemed to find that the brain that issued instructions to it had been disconnected, gradually slowed down, and finally fell to the ground. Plop. The body had no support and the sound of heavy hitting the ground was heard. The whole process happened very abruptly. Neither the dead Uchiha Chunin himself, nor the Hyuga Soji and Shinkai who were chasing behind realized what happened. They all passed by the fallen body in confusion and continued to chase the fleeing Uchiha Jonin. And this time, even the Uchiha Jonin who had always been able to react immediately to any special situation in the battle froze. His hands and feet were running unconsciously according to his body's instincts, and behind the mask, his expression was full of fear that could not be concealed. He didn't see clearly what had just happened. Although he only had a 2 Magatama Sharingan, his insight was not as good as that of a 3 Magatama Sharingan. But over the years, the combat experience that allowed him to grow into a Jonin was no longer comparable to a transformation of the Sharingan, but even so, he still didn't notice anything wrong just now. There was no sound of wind, no trace of chakra, and even no killing intent. In the absence of anything, his companion suddenly lost his life and was beheaded under his nose. What on earth was going on? Since the surprise attack, one unexpected thing after another has long broken the Jonin's calm heart. That Hyuga clan member is wrong. He quickly realized this, and he saw the confusion on the faces of the two Hyuga Chunins chasing behind him. They also didn't know what was going on. The only one who could have caused all this was that Hyuga clan member. The Uchiha Jonin felt that he seemed to have grasped something important, but now he had only one thought in his mind. Run, run quickly. Since his companions were dead, there was no need for him to stay behind. He had to rush back to Konoha as soon as possible to report the matter to the clan leader. But unfortunately, before he could run a few more steps, his body instinctively sensed the crisis, stopped moving forward, and threw a kunai directly into the air in front of him. Ding! The sound of metal collision was very clear in the rumbling fire. Originally, a figure suddenly appeared in the empty air. The kunai thrown by the Uchiha Jonin was knocked down by the kunai in Ryosuke's hand. Is it you? The moment he saw Ryosuke, the Uchiha Jonin could no longer suppress his emotions and exclaimed, "Illusion!" Under the mask, the pupils in the pupils had been operating the Sharingan to the extreme since the beginning of the battle. The two Magatama in the pupils spun rapidly like a wheel, until finally, the third Magatama appeared. The Sharingan, which already had powerful insight, became clearer because of this transformation. The surrounding scene changed slightly. The current scene was very familiar. The reason why they had been running for so long and never left the dense forest was because they had been wandering around in this forest all the time. Not far away, the Hyuga clan member stood there calmly with a kunai in his hand. On that young and immature face, the white eyes seemed different from those of ordinary Hyuga. They seemed brighter than those of ordinary Hyuga. So that's how it is, so that's how it is. The Uchiha Jonin clenched his fists and screamed. The two Hyuga easily lifted the illusion amplified by the hypnotic eye, and his companions inexplicably passed away in front of him. The crisis he had just felt. Everything, after seeing these eyes, he already understood what was going on. The pressure of life and death, the death of his companions, and the eyes he saw in front of him made the Uchiha Jonin's heart like a raging sea. Hinata, Hinata, what a Hinata! While he was yelling, he rushed towards the calm figure in front of him. At this moment, he gave up the idea of not getting close to Hinata. Years of experience told him that he could no longer escape. The moment he saw those eyes, he had no chance to leave the dense forest. Because the eyes he saw might be the biggest secret of the Hyuga clan for thousands of years. I've been waiting for this moment. Facing the Uchiha Jonin who was rushing towards him, Ryosuke didn't feel any fear in his heart, but was eager to try. But this didn't mean that he was complacent enough to think that he could face the Jonin head-on. At the moment when the Uchiha Jonin rushed towards him, Soji and Shinkai, who had been vigilant against him since the beginning, also caught up. Rather than saying that the Uchiha Jonin was charging towards Ryosuke, it would be better to say that he was surrounded by three people. However, Soji and Shinkai did not take action immediately, but were vigilant on the side. Facing the figure who had been acting very calm since the beginning of the battle, they suddenly remembered Ryosuke's words before the battle began. This is a test I arranged for myself. His words echoed in their minds. After seeing the embarrassed look of the Uchiha Jonin in front of them, they seemed to understand why Ryosuke had been so calm and confident before. Fire escape, Phoenix fire technique. The voice of gnashing teeth sounded. After such a long period of high-intensity fighting, the Uchiha Jonin had very little chakra left in his body. He could no longer use that powerful B-level ninjutsu. Return to heaven. Chakra gushed out of the acupuncture points of Ryosuke's body at the same time, forming a spiral chakra shield around his body. While blocking these flying flames, he also changed their direction accurately, making them fly back to the Uchiha people. The Uchiha Jonin nimbly avoided his own ninjutsu, and he didn't think his ninjutsu would be effective. He consumed chakra in this situation just to prevent Ryosuke from dodging and moving. Escape? It's impossible to escape. He just wants to use his life to leave something on Ryosuke. Regardless of Ryosuke who was wrapped in the chakra shield in front of him, the kunai in the hands of the Uchiha Jonin was repeatedly washed by chakra, becoming sharper and more penetrating. As a Jonin, of course it is impossible to master only one kind of chakra property change. In addition to Uchiha's unique fire escape, he also studied the wind attribute chakra. Although the return to heaven claims to be an absolute defense, nothing in this world is absolute. Various factors, such as the amount of chakra and the control of chakra, will affect the actual use of Kaden. So, die. Under Ryosuke's calm gaze, the Uchiha Jonin who was rushing in front of him screamed and threw out the sharp kunai with strong wind attribute chakra in his hand. Whoosh! The sharp sound of breaking through the air was extremely harsh. An ordinary kunai, under the use of this Jonin, was given powerful penetrating and destructive power. It was like an ordinary toy gun bullet that turned into a special bullet of a sniper rifle, directly penetrating the Kaden performed by Ryosuke and piercing the chakra shield. But it was a pity that he had already anticipated it and did not have full confidence in the defensive power of the Kaden he used and knew it first, avoiding this unabated kunai. 8 trigrams. Ryosuke's expression did not change at all because of the impact of the battle. At this time, he was like a sophisticated machine, calculating all possible things and launching a counterattack. 64 palms. Palms rained down on the Uchiha Jonin. Why is the Hyuga clan's close combat the strongest? It's because the soft fist technique and the white eyes allow them to block the flow of chakra in the enemy's body, and even stimulate the acupoints to cause various negative effects on the enemy. In close combat, in a pure physical duel, some small body stagnation, or even numbness, may have a great impact on the outcome. At the beginning, the Uchiha Jonin could still block Ryosuke's attack and prevent him from cutting off the flow of chakra in his body. But soon, the sequelae of the previous high-intensity battle appeared, and physical strength and chakra began to be insufficient. Mentally, fatigue and weakness came to his mind again and again. When he wanted to give up a little bit in his heart, when Ryosuke's palm wrapped in soft fist chakra hit his acupoints, this high-intensity battle that lasted for nearly half an hour finally came to an end. Thick smoke surrounded the dense forest. Next to Ryosuke was the Uchiha Jonin who had fallen to the ground. You are not determined enough. Looking at the Uchiha Jonin who was unable to move and gradually lost his voice, he shook his head. If you really want to fight to the death, even if your body has no chakra and your limbs are broken, you have to bite off a piece of the enemy's flesh with your teeth, right? When Ryosuke said this, he felt a little regretful. Maybe we should have started earlier. This Uchiha Jonin should have more chakra and physical strength, so that he can accompany him more in the face of strength tests. Master Ryosuke, he has been confirmed dead. After vigilantly checking the Uchiha Jonin, and confirming with his Byakugan that there was no sound, Soji reported respectfully. His attitude was much stronger than usual, and there was also a bit of respect. Hurry up and finish it. Closing his eyes tiredly, Ryosuke rubbed his eye sockets. Remember to use the scrolls you bought in Kyoto City to collect the bodies of the 3 Uchiha, and don't do anything to damage their bodies. Understood. Soji and Shinkai nodded obediently, and left in an instant to deal with the fire in the dense forest and collect the bodies of the other 2 Uchiha. While resting and recovering the chakra consumed in this battle, Ryosuke reviewed and sorted out this battle. Is the Jonin very strong? Of course, there are only a few Jonin in a village. The fact that a Jonin appeared in this Uchiha attack was beyond Ryosuke's imagination. However, it only surprised him a little. He planned this battle. From the beginning, he took all the possibilities into consideration, including the appearance of Jonin and the possibility of the awakening of 3 Magatama among the Uchiha. Battle, although it seems to be a very complicated thing. But in fact, it is nothing more than one sentence, making your advantages more advantageous and making up for your disadvantages. In this battle, the biggest advantage that Ryosuke and his team have is that they know in advance that Uchiha may launch a sneak attack, which makes them transform from prey in the open to hunters in the dark. The disadvantages are the number of people, overall strength, and him as a burden. But these disadvantages have been made up by Ryosuke little by little in the battle that lasted more than 20 minutes just now, and even gradually turned into advantages. In terms of number, although there are 3 people, if calculated according to the tickets of the amusement park, there should be 2.5 people on their side, and 1 as a child. Obviously, Ryosuke's strength is relatively unable to keep up in this battle. If he fights head-on with a Chunin in his prime, he is not guaranteed to win. From the battle just now, it can be seen that even if it is a lingering Jonin with little chakra, he needs some effort to deal with it. The so-called absolute defense Kaden was not skilled enough in his hands and was not worthy of such a name. And most of the 8 diagrams' 64 palms were blocked. If the stamina and chakra of the senior ninja had not been almost exhausted, he would have had no chance to hit the opponent and end the battle. Therefore, at the beginning of this battle, Ryosuke directly attacked the weakest Uchiha with the three of them. While ensuring the probability of success, reduce the disadvantage in number and overall strength. Hyuga Soji and Hyuga Hoshi are the helpers assigned to him by Hyuga Hiyashi. With Hyuga Hiyashi's attention to him, these two helpers are naturally not weak. Although they have always played the role of guards and nannies in the village, in fact, both of them have participated in the late stage of the Third Ninja World War, and are experienced chunin who have really been on the battlefield. After getting rid of an Uchiha, the number of people and overall strength have changed. Originally, the Uchiha side was 1 + 1 + 2 = 4. On their side it is 1 + 1 + 0.5 = 2.5. But when the Uchiha lost one person, their gap was only 0.5 disadvantage. Finally, when Ryosuke went from the open to the dark again, his 0.5 became 1.5, because while he became a surprise soldier, he also had the white eyes that the Uchiha didn't know. All of a sudden, the battle situation became clear. The only pity is that this is always a battle between ninjas. Although planning and calculation are also an important factor in the battle, Ryosuke doesn't like this feeling. Knowing the plot well, he knows how dangerous the ninja world will be in the future. And at that time, the real strength will determine the outcome of each battle. This kind of battle that relies on strategy to gain an advantage is relatively rare. At that time, many battles have actually exceeded the scope of ninjas, and can be said to be like a battle between gods. Many strategies will only be crushed like an ant in the face of real power. However, this battle is not without any gains. After all, the steps must be taken step by step. After resting to recover his strength and chakra, Ryosuke stood up again. When he smiled again, his inner self had changed. His hands were already stained with blood, and he was no longer the low-level ninja before. Becoming a qualified ninja was his temporary goal. As for the earth-shaking battles in the future, he believed that he would be able to participate at that time, after all. You should know what to do about these eyes, right? Looking at Soji and Hoshikai who had hurried back after finishing the work, Ryosuke smiled and said, "Don't tell anyone, including your family." "Yes," they replied in unison, and Soji and Hoshikai looked at Ryosuke with only submission in their eyes. The scorching hot wind of summer gradually dissipated, and time has unknowingly entered autumn. In the evening, the sun has not completely set. The red afterglow bloomed in the sky, like a sea of fire, just like the forest fire a few days ago. It's comfortable to travel in this kind of weather and temperature. Think about when we left the village before, we were wet from head to toe and sweating every day. Carrying a small backpack loaded with outdoor supplies, Soji's pace was leisurely and comfortable. Beside him, Hinata Shinkai was the same, with unconcealable joy and happiness on her face. Since the battle ended that day, the two of them have been in high spirits and excitement, and have never stopped. "Master Ryosuke, do you want some water?" Shinkai enthusiastically handed the kettle filled with spring water to Ryosuke. Ryosuke chuckled and declined her kindness. "No, thank you." "Do you want to eat, Master Ryosuke? We only rested for a while at noon today. Isn't it time to eat something to replenish your energy?" Soji also smiled flatteringly and handed over some edible wild fruits that tasted good. "No need for this either." Ryosuke continued to politely decline. Then, just as Soji was about to speak, he continued to take something else from his small backpack. Ryosuke, who had been walking in the front, stopped and turned around to look at the two smiling people, and said helplessly, "Can you two be a little more normal? Have you been a little too enthusiastic about me recently?" In the past, they were dedicated to being a branch family, abiding by the mission of protecting the main family and accompanying him. But since they knew about their white eyes, this attitude has changed all of a sudden. Although their attitude was also respectful before, it was more because of the family system, because of the politeness and humility of the bird in the cage. Now, there is a little more respect in their respectful attitude. It is no longer because of the system, but from the heart. The difference between the two was so big that Ryosuke was a little uncomfortable. No, this is what we should do." Looking at Ryosuke who was looking at him, Soji took a step back and scratched his head and said, "You are a member of the royal family, and you have such unique eyes. You will become a figure like Uchiha Madara in the future. We are already very satisfied to have the opportunity to assist you for a while. Please give us this opportunity. And Shinkai, who was next to him, also nodded in approval of his words. When they saw those eyes and felt the difference in Ryosuke's eyes, they had already understood too many things in their hearts. Including why the clan leader arranged for the two Chunins to act as guards, and why Master Ryosuke had the opportunity to marry into the royal family, etc. It turns out that their Hyuga's Byakugan can really transform like Uchiha's Sharingan and have more powerful abilities. Could it be that the era of their Hyuga clan is finally coming? Assist. Ryosuke muttered the word, laughed and shook his head. Since I will show my ability in front of you, I have already considered and trusted you to a certain extent. So you don't have to be so enthusiastic. After returning to the village, your attitude will make me very conspicuous and expose my existence. I'm very sorry. As soon as he said this, Soji and Shinkai in front of him had already stepped back in panic and bowed to apologize. They were afraid that their existence would affect the future of the Hyuga clan. You really don't have to be like this. Just face me with the same attitude as before. Ryosuke looked at them in distress. As for my ability, I believe you have guessed that it has always been the most confidential thing in the clan. The fewer people who know about it, the better. At least, before I grow up, this matter will become the biggest secret of our Hyuga. Hearing his words, Soji and Shinkai quickly assured, Master Ryosuke, don't worry, we will never reveal a word to others, including our family. We have known each other for such a long time, of course I believe what you say. Nodding gently at them, Ryosuke continued. As for my affairs, the only people in the village who know about it now are my father, the clan leader, the clan elders, and Hinata. And you, as the fourth and fifth people, including the head of the branch family, that is, my uncle Hazashi, do not know about this matter. These words that seemed to be spoken from the heart made Soji and Shinkai clench their fists and feel excited. This feeling of being trusted by Ryosuke was too hard for them to hide their emotions. After we return, Soji, I will propose to my father that we assign you the position of guardian ninja of the daimyo's mansion that we won from the daimyo. At that time, you will become an important hub between our Hyuga and those nobles. Many exchanges will be completed by you. At the same time, the people of the branch family should pay more attention to you, and those more radical people may win you over and do things for them. I hope that by that time, you can still stand by my side and work with me to rectify this fragmented Hyuga. After pouring out his heart, he gave a heavy burden. Ryosuke stared at Soji and kept a smile on his face. This is a habit of his, especially in such a relatively important conversation environment. The more important the conversation process, the more sincere and kind he will smile. Nodding happily, Hyuga Soji once again assured, I will never let you down. The Byakugan you master is the future of our Hyuga. Those radical people in the branch family don't understand the intentions of the royal family at all. Very good. Ryosuke nodded with satisfaction. In fact, as early as before, when he exposed his abilities in front of the two of them, he had already made plans in his mind. Although in the process of growing up, he needs to hide himself and not let too many people know his abilities. But it is only necessary to limit the number of people. After all, Ryosuke cannot do everything by himself. He always needs some available people to share some things with him. Otherwise, he will do everything by himself. Every time he takes action, if he needs to consider hiding himself, he must clear the scene before doing it, or after doing it, so as not to expose his ability. But this kind of thing may happen once or twice, but if it happens too many times, it is difficult to guarantee that it will not be leaked. Therefore, Ryosuke needs to cultivate some trustworthy subordinates to become his right-hand men. And people like Soji and Shinkai, who have always been friendly to the royal family in the Hyuga branch and have had a friendship with Ryosuke for some time, are undoubtedly the most suitable candidates. Disputes are the theme that cannot be avoided in any world. Unless all living and dead souls in the world have no emotions and abandon their own emotions, it is possible to create a peaceful and beautiful eternal kingdom. But this is impossible. Without emotions, you cannot be called a complete person. Therefore, whether it is the ninja world, or each country or village, there are actually internal disputes. This is a common problem that will occur as long as the number of people in a group reaches a certain level, but there is no perfect management system. In this regard, the various major clans in Konoha are the same. Whether it is the Hyuga, Uchiha, Akamichi and other major clans, when the population grows to a certain base number and each individual has a relatively independent thinking, many different voices will appear inside. And these voices will become more and more harsh and radical as time goes by. This situation is a bit similar to the contention of 100 schools of thought, but in fact it is not so high-end. In Hyuga, where Ryosuke is, not only are the royal family and the branch family in dire straits, but even the branch family itself has various factions. The royal family has few people and is a single-line family, so there are not many tricks to do. However, the branch family has a large number of people, and is responsible for the large and small affairs assigned to Hyuga in the village. Under the influence of the number of people and power affairs, the internal relationship is extremely complicated. Among them, there are radical elements who hate the Hyuga royal family. Because they are caged birds, they cannot directly attack the royal family in public, so they can only use some small tricks in secret to embezzle some of the royal family's interests. This kind of people hide very deeply, and the royal family has never had a specific list of candidates. In addition to radical people, there are also stable people like Soji and Shinkai who can accept the mission they have determined since birth and live for the royal family. Of course, there are also some neutral people who are between radicals and stable people. They don't live entirely to protect the royal family, but more for the future of Hyuga. These many people with different ideas and concepts expressed their own opinions in the clan, which made the Hyuga clan split into pieces. Even because Hinata, the future head of the clan, did not perform well in all aspects, it was difficult for the people of the branch family to surrender, so the disputes became more and more intense and became difficult to deal with. When Ryosuke and the other two returned to the village, it was just around noon. The family that was responsible for the gatekeeping work this month was a small family in the village, the Mitomen clan. The scale of this family was very small. At first, it was just an ordinary ninja family, but since Mitomen Yan served as the Hokage's advisor, this ninja family began to transform into a family, began to branch out, and had its own clan land. After simply confirming the identity information, the Chunin from the Mitomen clan kindly let Ryosuke and the other three enter the village without any conflict. The Hyuga clan land is in the center of Konoha village, a long distance away from the village entrance. Walking on the streets of Konoha, Ryosuke looked at the familiar scene and listened to the familiar hawking voices. He felt a little relaxed and emotional. After leaving the village for a month, he realized that he had unconsciously regarded himself as a member of this village. The prosperity and tranquility of Konoha village were the same as before, and there was no change because of the month they were away. When passing by the food street, Ryosuke remembered that he seemed to have forgotten to bring some gifts for Hinata. Maybe I can only make up with some food. But think about it carefully, it's still school time, she should still be in school. If I buy it now, the taste may change when she goes home. It's better to wait until school picks her up after school and take her out for a big meal. Thinking of this, Ryosuke slowed down his pace and returned to his previous speed. It took about half an hour for Ryosuke and his friends to arrive at the gate of the Hyuga clan slowly. From a distance, they saw Hyuga Hiyashi standing at the entrance of the clan land, holding a broom and seeming to be sweeping the floor, but judging from his expression, it was obvious that he was waiting for them. I'm back. When Ryosuke and the other two approached, Hyuga Hiyashi raised his head as if he had just discovered them. In front of outsiders, his face was as stern as always, but his eyes looked up and down at Ryosuke to make sure that he was okay. I'm back, father. Ryosuke smiled stiffly, and his smile was not as familiar as usual. To be honest, facing such a scene, he was a little at a loss. He could really feel the warmth and concern in Hyuga Hiyashi's eyes. But it was this kind of warmth-like family that made him not know how to respond. If it was just pretending, he could certainly make it look real, but facing such a scene, he couldn't pretend, and he was not good at it. After carefully looking at Ryosuke, and sensing the obviously different aura on him, Hyuga Hiyashi's serious face relaxed, and he nodded with satisfaction. This is my first time traveling far away, and I have grown a lot. Let's go in and talk, father. Ryosuke smiled gracefully. This is the first time he has felt pressure from Hyuga Hiyashi since he came to this world. The way he looked at him made Ryosuke feel that he had been out of the village for not a month, but several years. To be honest, he is really not good at these warm scenes of wanderers returning home. Hyuga Hiyashi didn't think much about his reaction, and nodded after thinking for a while. It was at this time that he finally had time to shift his gaze from Ryosuke to Soji and Shinkai behind him. Thank you too for your hard work on this mission. Faced with Hyuga Hiyashi's polite words, Soji and Shinkai quickly waved their hands and replied respectfully, this is what we should do. Master Ryosuke is the main force for the successful completion of this mission. Hyuga Hiyashi noticed the respect in their words and looked at the two of them for a while longer. He didn't continue to chat here, but turned around and walked towards the clan land first. In this way, the group headed towards the center of the Hyuga clan land, the area where the clan members were located. Along the way, many clan members bowed to Hyuga Hiyashi after seeing them, and their eyes were full of curiosity and scrutiny for Ryosuke. Because he was well protected, Ryosuke had no special information whether in Konoha or in the Hyuga clan. He himself was also very low-key. Although his grades in school were among the top few, he never got the first place and was in the upper middle class. Such an ordinary life experience, compared with the genius Hyuga Neji, seems extremely ordinary. Many people in the clan believe that Ryosuke is an extremely mediocre person like Hinata, and it was the clan leader who made a mistake and chose him as a son-in-law to become Hinata's future right-hand man. However, neither Hyuga Hiyashi nor Ryosuke paid attention to these remarks and looks. Among them, Hyuga Hiyashi believed that with the existence of a bird in a cage, although there were some small disputes within their family, there would be no major impact. And Ryosuke didn't care at all. He had seen too many plots like this in his previous life. When he had enough strength to support and could expose his abilities, these voices would quiet down. Since the result has been determined, there is no need to care too much about some small fights in the process. After returning home, Ryosuke completely let go of his vigilance. He first went to see Hanabi, who was already babbling and learning to walk, and then went to the study with Hyuga Hiyashi. Let Soji and Hoshika come along. Seeing Soji and Hoshika stop at the door, Ryosuke smiled and invited them to come along. Although Hyuga Hiyashi was a little confused, he did not refuse his invitation and signaled that they could enter the study. He knew that Ryosuke had his own intentions in doing this. He also understood that perhaps Soji and Hoshika had learned something. Tell me what you have seen this time when you went out. Without directly asking Ryosuke about their mission this time, Hyuga Hiyashi sat down and talked about unrelated things. I have seen a lot, and what surprised me more was the status of daimyo and nobles in this country, or in this ninja world. Ryosuke was also not in a hurry and talked about what he saw and felt on the road during this trip. I originally thought that as ordinary people, these daimyo and nobles were just puppets pushed out by us ninjas to handle political affairs, but I didn't expect that they actually had real power. This time, your idea was too one-sided. Finally, he had the opportunity to show off in front of his son-in-law, and Hyuga Hiyashi couldn't wait to speak. Since ancient times, it is not the person with the strongest personal power who will become the lord. You should have seen the power required to become the lord, right? Without thinking too much, Ryosuke nodded and uttered two words, people's hearts. Yes, it's the people's hearts. Hyuga Hiyashi laughed dumbly. I have to say that those nobles have a very good grasp of this aspect, and sometimes it is a headache for us ninjas. Although he is an ordinary person, but with his extraordinary thoughts and ideas, he conquered many people, including many powerful ninjas. Quote, a few years ago, the guardian ninja of the daimyo's mansion went to our Konoha village to assassinate the third generation despite the daimyo's dissuasion. They wanted to make the daimyo the only king of this country. But unfortunately, they did not succeed. Although our Hyuga clan has not received any definite news about this matter, I think the story behind this matter is not that simple. Relaxing his back and leaning back on the chair, Ryosuke also laughed. As an ordinary person, can you drive a ninja with extraordinary power? It sounds bold and powerful. This kind of thing is not uncommon in the cultural history of thousands of years in the country where he lived in his previous life. This makes many people in later generations wonder why those talented and unrivaled literati and generals would obey the emperor's orders and do some loyal things. But in fact, it is nothing more than one point, that is, excellence in thought. Regardless of whether the decisions made by the emperors of any era are right or wrong under the test of time, it is undeniable that they are all people at the top of the thought and philosophy of that era. When the emperor makes a decision, he does not represent an individual, but the majority of the country. The country is actually like a company, and the emperor is the final decision maker for choosing various options. Although he can deny many options and has many rights, he has to listen to everyone's opinions and choose the best. If he ignores anyone and insists on doing whatever he wants, then this emperor will only be overthrown and voted out by the company's board of directors. At the beginning, the reason why Ryosuke did not think about this was because the nature of the world was different. This world is different from the world before. This world has extraordinary power and illusion. Just like Uchiha Obito controlled the Mizukage through illusions to control the entire Mist Village, he initially thought that these daimyo were also under the control of ninjas and issued various orders. But this time he went out and found out that he was wrong. They control public opinion. Unless we have no other choice, we ninjas will not attack the nobles. Hinata Hiyashi reminded Ryosuke, although there are illusions, illusions cannot control everyone, and there is no way to make them make the choices they should have made under the control of illusions. These nobles are very smart. As long as a person in power makes a wrong choice under our illusions, other people in power in the land of fire can easily see it. At that time, they will lead a wave of anti-ninja enthusiasm. Although we ninjas have extraordinary power, we cannot fight against the millions of ordinary people in this world, because we can't kill them all. Hinata Hiyashi didn't say anything more at this point, but Ryosuke understood what he meant. It seems that next, we'd better make friends with these nobles, maintain good relations, and support each other. Ryosuke fumbled with his fingers, chuckled and made a decision. It just so happens that the result of this mission exceeded our imagination. The daimyo not only gave us a lot of resources, but also was willing to give us a place as a guardian ninja. With this place, we will have more opportunities to socialize with those nobles. If we have a good relationship, maybe we won't have to worry about funding and other aspects in the future. Guardian Ninja. Hinata Hiyashi was also a little surprised, but soon realized something. He pulled a stiff smile on his stern face and asked, "Did you scare him?" Ryosuke shook his head. "I just revealed some recent things in the village to him. I told him the truth and it won't affect the subsequent communication." Is he taking advantage of the power of the tiger? Hinata Hiyashi nodded, understood what Ryosuke had done, and asked, "What do you plan to do about this guardian ninja?" He didn't ask for more specific details, let alone talk about tedious content, and went straight to the next point. Since Ryosuke had spoken, he believed that Ryosuke could handle this matter properly. Standing behind Ryosuke, Soji and Hoshisai silently watched the conversation between the father and son, without speaking, but they felt very curious. Especially since Master Ryosuke is still so young. But when they thought about their life outside the village with Ryosuke for the past month, they also felt it was natural. This time in Kyoto, Soji got along well with those nobles, so I plan to give him this quota. Ryosuke didn't waste any words and directly said what he was thinking. But for a guardian ninja, he must at least be at the level of a jonin. You can discuss with the village in a while and arrange a jonin assessment for Soji. After thinking for a while, he added, if possible, arrange one for Shinkai as well. There is no problem with the arrangement, but the jonin assessment is not something that can be passed casually. Seeing that Ryosuke trusted the two so much, Hyuga Hiyashi looked more at the two people standing behind him. During this period, I will take the time to guide you too, but whether you can pass the assessment depends on you. And I want to remind you that the assessment tasks that a chunin needs to complete to be promoted to a jonin are very dangerous. 70% of the chunins in the village dare not apply for the exam because of the extremely high mortality rate. Don't worry, clan leader, we will never let Master Ryosuke down. Soji and Shinkai quickly assured. It wasn't long in the study. Just half an hour, and Ryosuke made the mission clear. Father, I won't eat at home tonight. Getting up from the chair, Ryosuke explained before leaving, I forgot to bring some gifts for Hinata this time. I'll pick her up from school and take her out for dinner to make up for it. If this sentence was put in the previous life, it might be strange for a child who hasn't even started elementary school to say it. But in this world, it's quite normal. Opposite him, Hyuga Hiyashi hesitated for a moment and persuaded him, the food made by the chef at home is no worse than that outside. But you can eat the food at home at any time, but if you eat outside, you will feel like a gift or a surprise. Ryosuke replied with a chuckle, pushing the chair under the table. Okay, but before you leave, go to the kitchen and tell Alyong not to cook too much tonight. Hyuga Hiyashi didn't persuade him anymore, and nodded to indicate that he could leave. After saying goodbye to Hinata Hiyashi, Ryosuke took Soji and Shinkai out of the study. As soon as they arrived in the yard, Soji, who had been hesitating, couldn't help but ask, Master Ryosuke, did you miss something? And Shinkai next to him was also a little confused. I will find time to report to my father about the Uchiha matter. Ryosuke chuckled and said without much explanation, but do you know if there are any clan members in the clan who have achieved more in medical treatment? I need someone who is kind to the clan members. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand, please give me the scroll. Shinkai should know more about this matter. She has also learned some medical ninjutsu. Soji took out the scroll containing the corpses of the 3 Uchiha in his backpack and handed it to Ryosuke. Medical ninja. Shinkai pondered for a moment, and replied apologetically. I'm sorry, Master Liangji, I can't think of anyone in the clan who is more successful in medical treatment. Can you give me some time to think about it carefully? Of course. Liangji put away the scroll, think about it during this period of time. Are there any candidates who are more suitable in terms of ability and character, not limited to one person, and make a list for me? Shinkai nodded, okay, Master Liangji. Then you go back and rest first. You have been out for so many days, and it's time to go home. Liangji smiled and signaled the two that they could end the escort mission. I am still quite safe in the village. Even if there is really danger, I have the ability to deal with it. Now, you should go back and have a good rest, in order to welcome the special training that your father will give you tomorrow. Yes. The two who had originally planned to carry out the escort mission to the end until Liangji finished his trip today heard what he said, and it was not good to stay any longer. They really need to rest well to prepare for the special training tomorrow and the Jonin assessment in a while. Standing in the courtyard, watching the two people leave. It was not until they disappeared from the gate that Ryosuke slowly turned around and walked towards his room with the scroll. He did not plan to report to his father about the Uchiha's sneak attack for the time being. Hyuga Hiyashi's concern for him was really beyond Ryosuke's imagination. He could guess that if his father knew about this matter, knew about this trip, and knew about such a dangerous test he arranged for himself, he would undoubtedly control him again. It is very likely that he will not have the opportunity to leave the village before the Chunin. The wanderer who goes out will always report good news to his family, not bad news. As for asking Shinkai about the medical ninja, of course, it is necessary to study these 3 pairs of Sharingan. Because of the blood relationship, the Hyuga clan is extremely accurate in chakra control, and everyone has a good talent in medical treatment. So he knew that there were some talents in the clan who had achieved some success in medical treatment. But information was only information after all. Ryosuke had not actually gotten to know some people, so he could not actually judge whether he was suitable to contact them. Putting the scroll in the room, Ryosuke left the room. It was almost time to pick up Hinata from school. Yaaa. As soon as he arrived at the door of Hanabi's room, Ryosuke heard the sound of yaaa coming from inside. Although Hanabi could talk and walk, but she always didn't speak clearly, and used some strange and incomprehensible language to express her meaning. But his purpose of coming here was not to play with Hanabi, but to meet Alyong, the housekeeper who was in charge of the housework. Sure enough, as soon as he entered the room, Ryosuke saw a strong middle-aged woman teasing Hanabi, teaching her to read and playing with her. Ryosuke, ah. A figure appeared at the door and quickly attracted the attention of the two people in the room. Hanabi, who was lying on the ground, jumped up and ran towards Ryosuke with her carrot-like legs. Be careful. Ryosuke smiled and held her hand. Ryosuke, where's your sister? The question was asked in a childish voice, and Hanabi looked outside. She still remembered that when Ryosuke came back, he told her that he was going to pick up her sister from school. I'll take Hanabi with me to pick up her sister from school, and then we'll go eat together. Tenderly holding her up, Ryosuke walked towards the middle-aged woman, Auntie Aliong, we won't eat at home tonight, I'll take them out to eat. Okay, Master Ryosuke. Butler Aliong nodded respectfully, but after thinking about it, he asked with some regret, the master just came over and asked us to prepare more delicious food tonight. Look at this time, the kitchen is probably already cooking. If we remove it now, wouldn't it be a bit of a waste? Did father tell us? Take away Hanabi's little hand that was pressing on his face. Ryosuke stood there hesitantly. Then let's eat at home tonight and go out tomorrow. No wonder Hinata Hiyashi looked like he had something to say just now. Thinking carefully, he hasn't been home for so long, and it's really not appropriate to go out to eat on the first day he returns home. Hearing his change of heart, the housekeeper Aliong smiled kindly. Okay, then I'll ask the kitchen to prepare a few more dishes, which will definitely not be inferior to eating out. Thank you, Ryosuke replied politely, and put down the Firefly in his arms. Since we are going to eat at home, then Firefly will wait for us at home. She didn't make a fuss like an ordinary naughty child to follow them. Firefly replied obediently, then Ryosuke must bring my sister back quickly. Got it. Ryosuke pinched her cheek gently and said goodbye to the housekeeper Aliong. In addition to the people of Hyuga, there are many ordinary people working in the Hyuga tribe. Like Aliong, she is an ordinary woman. Therefore, she did not call Hyuga Hiyashi the chief of the tribe like the Hyuga tribe, but called him master. Come on. Get down. The sunset glow spread across the sky. The ninja school after school was just like usual. A wall separated the peaceful streets outside. But inside, it was like a gladiator arena filled with the smell of sweat and blood. Noise and roars came from the school. The venue, the audience, the passion, the battle, all the elements of the gladiator arena are reflected in the training ground after school. Those who stayed in the training ground after school were all those who wanted to become ninjas and were willing to throw away everything to fight, while those who avoided fighting and had reservations had already left school early. Although there was a teacher at the level of Chunin, he was always on standby nearby, ready to rescue at any time. But real battles are not something that can be stopped casually. Many real ninjas can't do it, let alone just a group of children. Although it is stipulated that detonating tags and lethal ninjutsu cannot be used, it is still difficult to control one's behavior at this vigorous age when real fire is really produced. After entering the school, Ryosuke came to the high platform of the training ground with ease, and looked down at the various training grounds below. At the first glance, his sight passed through the crowd and saw Hinata, who was extremely eye-catching and dazzling, surrounded by a group of girls. Cold and indifferent, her whole body was filled with an attitude of, no strangers allowed. This is why Ryosuke could recognize Hinata from this dense crowd at first sight. The girl grew up a lot during the time he was away. It seems that because she had been pretending for too long, the cold feeling on her body has been completely integrated into her aura, and she has gradually become accustomed to showing this face to others. Although the expression on her face and the posture of her body were resisting the crowd. But the girls around her were endless, and they were like flowers competing for beauty, clustering around Hinata. From time to time, someone would take the initiative to talk to Hinata. But her reaction was very cold, and her lips only opened and closed once or twice. Even more often, she ignored it, or even replied with a slight or two, but Ryosuke was too far away to hear it. Has she become the big sister? This strange scene made Ryosuke feel very interesting. The girl looked completely different from what he had seen before, but this feeling was not bad, at least this cold attitude was much better than the timid look before. This kind of personality may be more suitable for survival in this ninja world. Ryosuke is more looking forward to Hinata's current combat power. Although the gender gap between men and women is not serious in the ninja world because of the existence of chakra. Under the same level, many powerful female ninjas are not inferior to men. But in the school's training ground, this situation is still quite obvious. Girls like Hinata gathered together for actual combat, and boys also gathered in groups. The two did not interfere with each other, and rarely challenged each other. Gently jumping down from the high platform, Ryosuke entered the training ground. He began to walk towards the training ground with a stream as the environment where Hinata was. Along the way, many classmates recognized Ryosuke and greeted him kindly, and he responded one by one. Only Uchiha Sasuke still had that stinky face. Even if he saw him, he didn't react at all to his nod, pretending not to know him. But he was really unfamiliar. Except for Naruto, who approached actively, Uchiha Sasuke was the second most dangerous person in this elite class, and Ryosuke had never spoken to him, and they had no intersection. Speaking of which, Naruto still did not appear in the training ground, and it seemed that he was still out of tune with the other people in the class. Hinata, are you really going to fight that Inuzuka Kiba tomorrow? That guy looks so fierce, and it's hard to mess with him at first glance. As soon as he walked into the group of girls, Ryosuke heard someone whispering to Hinata. I will win. Hinata didn't say much, just uttered 4 words calmly, and then stopped. She looked quite confident. The smile on Ryosuke's face became even bigger. As for his approach, many girls recognized his identity and began to remind Hinata quietly. Obviously, Ryosuke could feel that Hinata's body trembled after hearing the reminders from others around her. She quickly turned her head, and the moment she met his eyes, the coldness on her face and the indifference in her eyes gradually faded, and she had spirit and charm. Ryosuke. Blinking her eyes and staring at Ryosuke, Hinata walked out of the crowd, and others made way for her tactfully. You're back. The girl took a short step and came to him step by step. The childish voice and tone of speech were the same as before, just as if the cold and distant girl that Ryosuke had seen just now was just an illusion. And her appearance surprised the others around. They all looked at the scene in front of them with disbelief. I just came back this afternoon, and I thought you should be done with school, so I came to pick you up. Ryosuke nodded, and then turned his eyes to the crowd behind her. You should be done here. It's almost time to go home for dinner. Hanabi misses you very much. He asked hesitantly, not knowing what had happened in the past month. But it seems that the girl who planned to take the first place in theoretical knowledge also has the courage to fight with others, and seems to have performed well, and is very popular in the training ground. And when he reminded her, Hinata suddenly remembered that her disguise seemed to have just been disconnected. However, she did not panic like before. Instead, she calmly changed her expression in a few seconds, then turned her head and said calmly to her companions behind her. I'm leaving first. See you tomorrow. It seems that a lot of things have happened this month. Walking home with Hinata, this scene has not happened for a long time, which makes Ryosuke miss it very much. As a ninja, you can't be without practical experience. Hinata replied in a low voice, looking very well behaved. Indeed, it seems that your popularity is quite high. Your practical ranking should not be low in the same grade, right? Ryosuke said with a chuckle, but it's a pity that I didn't see you take action today. If it's the girls' group, I'll be first. Although she tried very hard to maintain the pride in her tone, Hinata couldn't suppress her inner joy. First, it seems that Hinata is working hard. Ryosuke did not hesitate to praise him, but he had expected this matter. As a member of a taijutsu family, she has a taijutsu level far beyond her peers. Before everyone grows up, when everyone is a child, chakra is a common problem for most people. With powerful taijutsu skills, as long as Hinata can muster up the courage, she can easily defeat not only the girls, but also some of the boys. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.